Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to our goal-setting session. It's good to have everybody in on. I appreciate you coming out on a Saturday in order to do this, and I know it's a longer meeting, and we have a lot of community comments, which is exciting, related to things as it relates to goals. The thing that I'd like to kind of start with, as we talk about goal set, do we need to do roll or not?
Need you to call to order, sir.
So I'll call the meeting.
Who's here?
So I'm going to call the meeting to order. Sean, do you want to call roll then?
You bet. Councilmember Vance.
Here.
Councilmember Jaron.
Here.
Councilmember Wright.
Here.
Councilmember Weller.
Present.
Councilmember McDonald.
Here.
Councilmember Parks.
Here.
Councilmember Zumas.
Here.
Mayor Benjamin.
Present. Thank you. I'm here. So once again, thank you for being here for this goal-setting session. This is an important part in our community because this is where we come together and set what is the work for our next 2 years, and really what our focus is. And yes, there'll be some things that come up that, aside from these goals, but these really become what is the priority that as a council you want to be working on, want to be working forward on. And we have, there's a lot of ideas that you have. The reason why you ran for council was you had specific things that you wanted to accomplish in our community. Plus, we also have staff and community that have provided input on thoughts they had. The thing that I'd like to start with is, before we jump into the goal pieces, is into aspirations. Why are we here? Because that kind of helps frame us understanding each other's perspective in this way. And when I think about my aspirations, for Pullman, and I'll start with mine. When the reason why I got involved in the community was because there was a point in time where my family was going through some very difficulties. They happened to be medical related, and I was totally blown away by the number of people that came out and supported myself, Heidi, the rest of my family in the midst of this thing. And it was one of those where I go, I don't want people in our community to have to go through hard times alone, because there's going to be hard times. And so, in that context, really my aspiration when I think about Pullman, and it's not just the city of Pullman, it's not just the city government, but it's Pullman as a whole, is, my aspiration is for people to think the best about others, not be quick to judge, and invest in each other as a part of the community where we have trust and collaboration, and communication, and really appreciation for each other. And for me, that's my aspiration as I think about what I'd like to see Pullman. And there's a lot of different ways in which you can have aspirations. I'd like to open up for others that of what is this thing that motivates you as a part of being here on council. And Eric, I'll let you start, and then we'll just kind of work our way around.
Thank you. I think that's a really awesome place to start, especially since I've been doing a lot of thinking too about why I'm elected. And I think what led me here is personally my nonprofit experience, and I've seen what extraordinary things people are capable of, and I want to build systems that prove that. And so that's kind of my aspirations for being on council.
Pat?
Okay. I was thinking I was going to be last.
Would you like to be last?
Thank you. Like Francis, up until the time I came on city council, I was very involved in a lot of things in Pullman, having been recently retired. Up to that point, I had been the general manager at the bookie. And then I had considered running for a city council position, but I didn't know how much time I was going to have. And so I had a few months of not actually working working. And a position became available, and so I looked for it to be an appointment. And at that point, I had already served as the presidents of both United Way, Pullman Education Foundation, the Pullman Greyhound Boosters. It was on the Pullman Chamber of Commerce Board. And so I felt like that was a time in my life where I could take a different step into a different type of volunteer activity, and someplace where I could use my talents and expertise to maybe make a difference. And so that's what my spark was. And I was appointed to that position in 2008, and hopefully some of that time I have made a difference. But as a number of you have always heard me say, I have no agenda. And so I hope I can bring that clean slate to the council and represent people as best as I can without a filter of my own and just that everybody else's agenda, hopefully, that I can embrace and move forward. And so that's what I like to do, and hopefully can continue to do that. So thank you.
Yeah. Nathan?
I'd like to go last, if that's okay.
Okay.
So I've been here 30 years, and my family's here. And maybe the very last thing that sparked me to run for city council is I have a new granddaughter, a year old at this point, and she lives in the area. In Colfax, I would love to fix that and get that Pullman. But, you know, I do have like a very full-time job already, but I looked, it's like, oh, you could do this maybe after you retire or whatever. But it's that I recognize some of the changing economic challenges and the need, and I bring some good business experience with my time at SEL, and I care deeply about the community, and I think I can make a difference, and so that's why I ran.
Yeah.
You are not old enough to have a grandchild. I just want to say that. I'm very similar to Pat. We've been here 33 years. I started volunteering at Head Start when our first was in Head Start. We got in on an over-income slot. At that time, they had to have a certain ratio of over-income families. And so it was such a wonderful experience, and I wasn't paying anything, right? And I thought, I have to do something. So I started on the Parent Policy Council and then the executive, you know, just like Pat, you're just everywhere you go. I'm a helper at heart. I worked in insurance for 20 years, helping people through their claims primarily, and I really enjoy that. I'm a problem solver. I like to network people together. If someone has a problem, what I like about this position is I can usually connect them with someone who can help them, from a sidewalk to whatever it is. And I just really like helping people and making those connections and trying to make a difference and contribute to the community that has given so much to us. So that's.
Yeah. Well, I don't know anybody in the world who loves Pullman more than my dad. And he had just spent my entire lifetime instilling in me that there's no other place on the planet to live. And most of my life, I've just kept my head down and tried to learn my job at Rico's and what I'm doing there, and just be like symbiotic and part of the town. But the downtown renovation forced me to like poke my head up and start interacting with people, not just the city, but people in downtown and all around the town and what they thought about the town. And I realized that small business didn't really have like a spot at the table. And yeah, I'm pretty loud, I forget. Small business didn't really have a spot at the table, and I guess I just wanted to kind of try and step up and help fill that role. Although I know that business and government are very different, and I'm learning that more every day. So, yeah.
Trevor?
Yeah, when I had decided to run, there was definitely kind of maybe one or two things that I was really interested and passionate about, and then as I sort of got more and more involved, I started to realize that there's sort of more and more nuance to the entirety of the city and the kind of governing body and the stuff that we really take for granted, like roads and services and things like that. And so I think in campaigning and getting to this point, it's been pretty eye-opening to see sort of all the intricacies that go into it. I think that for me, I'm really interested in seeing how we can continue to strengthen our community and build better resiliency, and at the same time continue to serve our underserved portion of our communities. So,
Nathan?
You know, it's a really good question. And I was taken kind of by surprise. Our past goal settings were a little bit more, I don't know, loosey-goosey, I guess would be the way to put it. I'm totally opposite from the people around the table, I would say. I did grow up here. My family actually came from over in Ohio. And when they came here, we didn't have a whole lot of money. We lived in assisted housing, and my mom was a special education teacher, very much taught us about volunteering. Before that, she was a Special Olympics swimming coach. My dad has always worked government, very straight edge. But I kind of have a love-hate relationship with Pullman. I volunteered a lot when I was younger, Bob Peavy Sports Camp. I actually jumped in my dad's white S10 when I was about, I think it was 13, and he asked me, how was it? And I said, I know what I want to do the rest of my life. I want to volunteer. And he said, the hell with that, you're getting a job. And I started working in the field, so on. Needless to say, when I was in my 20s going to WSU, I got in trouble with the law a lot when I was 21. When I was 21, it was off to the racetracks. You know, Tawny, I'm sure, remembers me there. Her brother, myself, we ran in the same kind of crew, but I was always the one that was getting in trouble. But I was the good kid before. So when I was, SEL took a chance on me, and I turned my life around. And I hated politics, but decided, and I talked to my parents, and they said, if you don't like it, do something about it. And so that's what I did. I ran in 2006 for Whitman County Commissioner, lost to a great guy, Michael Largent, put me on my first committee, and I'm still on that, the Blue Ribbon Advisory Task Committee. 2007, I ran for City Council against Al Sorensen. Barely won by like 3 votes. Ran that because I was working night shift at SEL, putting parts in. Won that. It was bad. And for me, it was scary because the police knew me. I was like, this is going to be, horrible. But the Pullman police were very understanding, giving a second chance, even though I'd already had like 3 or 4 chances, going to rehab, dealing with suicide and depression and anxiety and all of this. And having friends that were also. When I got on, my big thing was to fill the gaps that were not being addressed in the city of Pullman. Nobody knows what it's like to go through, well, very few people in elected position knows what it's like to spend nights in jail or have several DUIs, go to rehab. I wanted to bring a different view. I wanted to show people you can come back from that, and same with depression and anxiety and suicide. So why I got involved was because I saw Pullman was not focused on things that were very, very important. And that included poverty, and still does to a certain degree, but it's gotten much better, and homelessness. So I was not a part of any, big clubs or volunteered or any of that stuff. That stuff came later. And it was a tough road for people to trust me. And I think it still is. And I don't have a family, but anyone who has kids, has a family, is absolutely a saint. I would say that. But, I mean, we all are here because we want to serve, and so do I. So, yeah, I'm going to stop there.
So it's good for us to have these perspectives of each other, because we're going to be going through a lot of different items right now, and as a part of council, you're going to be working to shape what is the goals and the work list for the city for the next 2 years, and to understand the different perspective each one of us comes to, and why we might say one thing one way, think about that person's perspective as we're having these conversations. In order to work through this, and this is a relaxed time. Please get up. There's thank you to Pat and Ann for all the snacks that they brought. So take any breaks that you need. We will do a working lunch at noon, so we'll take a break around that time in order to get food, and have a short break, but then we'll come back and keep going just so we can get through everything. We, as you see, we have 112 pages from the citizens side that for goals. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have staff provide first an update of where we're at with our current goals, so the 2024, 2025 goals. So they'll walk through where we're currently at with those goals, what ones we've accomplished, which ones haven't been accomplished in that way. Then I would like to hear from each council your top 2 to 3 goals, just as with what's important to you, with the conversations you've had with the community, with everything that you've read in the packet. What are your top 2 to 3, so we can get those put down, and understand we have to. At the end of the day, we need to end up with a set of goals that are realistic, that we can accomplish in 2 to 3 in 2 years. So we need to think that in mind. From there, we'll then go through. Once you've provided your top 2 to 3 goals that you'd like to see that's on the list, we'll then do a review of the current goals. Are there any of the current goals that you'd like to see continue to brought forward? Then we'll do, the staff will provide an update on the staff proposed goals. We'll walk through each of those to see if there's any that we'd like, and then the staff will provide information related to community proposed goals. We'll look at the grouped ones that the staff put together, trying to consolidate so we can look at that, but then we'll actually go through all 112 pages, just so that every community member knows that if they've submitted a goal, we will have gone through those. So, and what we've done so if we think about, first of all, the goals take precedent. These are designed to take precedent over anything else that's brought up later. So if you have something in your mind that, I'd like to get another council members and get this onto the agenda, this is really the time to do this, because this sets that agenda, and this is what we're going to prioritize. These goals and what the goals get set, that is what myself and staff will use in order to start the budgeting process for the next round of budgeting, and with priorities that we then bring to you with then addition, and then to start the initial piece, and then we'll have from there the additional priority-based, reviews that goes into it, but that gives us the starting point from. You will see in here, there may be some citizen goals, community member goals, where they've said, can you fill this specific pothole? Well, that's more an administrative function as opposed to a legislative function. Whereas, and so there may be a time where someone says, oh, this is important, but the comment will be made, well, this is a administrative piece, and myself and Sean will just work on that. It doesn't need to show up on the goal side. So that's, if we get into that, that's that administrative versus legislative. When we did the goals, the previous ones, and one of the things you'll see is because the first thing we're going to start is those previous ones. They were the previous council, what they did is grouped them. They looked at, we had a whole lot of goals that were 2-year goals, but then we had these goals that were longer than 2-year goals. And that's where those work, if you look at those, our work groups came out of were projects that we wanted to move forward, but we knew we couldn't do them in 2 years. And so that's where you see that longer term priority areas. We had the 2-year, and then we also identified that there were goals that either were not in the city's purview, that it's not part of the city's purview, or we don't have the funding as a government to be able to do it, where some cities might have the funding to do it. We don't have that funding level. And so we then said, this is something that we want to support and encourage community to be able to do this as opposed to us doing it because we can't accomplish. And so, so that will be a discussion among the council of, do you want to still have that same type of format or setup or not as we go through it. So with that, any questions related to that? Tawny? Yeah. And this is designed to be informal, so.
Stupid question. I just want to clarify what you
Yeah.
just said. So I did not put the bypass into my goals because it was already here. And we're going to discuss that
We'll talk
later.
Yes, we'll go.
So-
If you want to include bypass as a goal, great. But we will come back and we'll look at
I just want to make sure I
these
don't
and-
have to state it in the ones that I'm looking forward to because it's already an existing thing. I just want to
So-
make sure I'm not going to miss an
We'll
opportunity.
review all of these to see, are any of these ones we want to just keep
Okay,
and continue?
just want to make sure I'm not
Yeah.
misunderstanding.
Eric?
More of a, not a question, more of a comment, but I'll just repeat what I said during last school session, which is I'll be approaching these through the SMART goal framework. And so if you're going to propose a goal, please make it specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, especially time-bound. I think, having an end date or, when we want these goals to be achieved would be very helpful, as well as measurable. So I'll be asking my questions and providing my goals in that framework.
Good, good. And what we're going to end up with today is as you provide goals, Sean, Megan, and myself are going to be writing down as when we go through all the different pages that we have, we'll be highlighting. And then what we're going to end up with is a list of, these are all these different things we'd like to include in. And then Sean and I will work and try to put it together into a format where we combine, if it looks like there's common things or common themes, to get them combined together. And then that's what will come back. And we won't, at the next regular council meeting, it'll be on the agenda for some time to work on them, and then we'll bring them back. So there's time, there'll be time at the next regular council meeting, and then the study session after that will take more time. So there's more time to work through this and refine it to make sure we got it right. This is really to make sure we have more overarching. Any other thoughts? With that, Sean, I'll let you start with where we're at with our current city council goal and priorities, the 2024 through 2025.
Sure, thank you. Just logistics, I think you covered a lot of it. One thing to note is that with our new council meeting software, Diligent, we're struggling and learning. And one of the documents that was published as the community goal comments, the compiled list of community comments, the document didn't get properly updated on the Diligent software. It was emailed to you all last week. I did that, so you have that document. It just didn't make it to the platform when we published. There is a printed copy here in the back for anybody that's here that wants to peruse it in paper, all 100 and however many pages. But we will make sure that that document does get out on the Diligent software, and then we will also be publishing a goals webpage within the city's website that will kind of have all of these documents compiled there for the public as well. That said, backing up to the 24-25 existing goals, I gave a presentation about this to council and the public back in November. And quite honestly, nothing's changed. The end, love Sean. No. No, but just to recap for everybody's, I don't have the presentation. I'm not going to show it. I have it in front of me. But essentially, the document that you have there in the packet talked about the long-term priority areas, starting with a bypass, select and advance a downtown freight and transportation bypass. Just to recap, we've partnered with the Palouse RTPO, Whitman County, and WashDOT in early 2025. We developed the Whitman County Freight and Alternatives Study. The top practical routes were identified, which identified a combination of Bishop Boulevard, Sand Road, Kirkendall Road, and Albion Road as kind of the three alternatives that need to be prioritized in conjunction with each other for that. Since then, the City of Moscow, Port of Whitman County have all gone and applied for a build grant, let me get the names right here in my head, to start the design work for the Sand Kirkendall Road route. And Mayor Benjamin was in Washington, D.C. this last week, and it looks like that might be very successful based on his conversations. Do you want to see?
We should know by June whether or not that grant has been approved.
Great.
And remind me, is that the preferred? I can't quite remember. There's been so many different routes.
The combination of all three of them, there was no really one preferred route. It was a combination of all of them that needed improvements. That one particular route has the biggest bang for its buck when it comes down to the most vehicles that would be removed from, or the most truck vehicles removed from the downtown core.
And it's freight. It's not a bypass. It is a freight corridor.
Correct. The next long-term priority area was housing, to develop and advance a long-term attainable and affordable housing plan. So council work group proposal came, and we saw that here as former council member Guido left office in December. We worked ahead on individual work items, so the housing grants were obtained, the middle housing plan, and we created the housing action plan as well. And zoning code updates were done to the accessory dwelling units and simplified some of the regulations for that. The next goal was repurpose in-town railways, develop and advance a plan to repurpose in-town railways. Ongoing conversations with WashDOT still are happening on the railways. We anticipate some further discussions, probably this quarter, maybe start of next quarter is where we're at with that. Strategic influence and partnerships. Develop and implement a strategic influence and partnership plan which emphasizes the importance of influence and collaboration with local, regional, state, and national entities. So this has been something that I thought was actually a very good goal for us to kind of achieve. And it gets us going in the right direction with other groups. Community Development Director R.J. Lott is now the 26-27 president of the Washington State Planning Directors Conference. Pullman Moscow Regional Airport Executive Director Tony Bean is now the 25-26 president of the Northwest Chapter of the American Association of Airport Executives. And ongoing staff and council representation has been going on with the Palouse RTPO, Palouse Basin Aquifer Committee, Chambers of Commerce, DPA, Transit Insurance Pool, Transit Authority, Association of Washington Cities. I could keep going here. There's a couple more. But anyway, I think that's been a really good one. We've had some good rapport with the 9th District legislators as well, and WSU, Port of Whitman County, and Whitman County themselves as well, all being collaborative with those groups. Next one was welcoming, and that was to promote the understanding and appreciation of community connections and cultural diversity through neighborhood gatherings, block and hill parties, educational forums, cultural events, and community engagement, especially for the historically marginalized. So we've done a lot of stuff with this. A lot of individual events. The Pullman Days of Service focused on increasing community service and nonprofits impact. The next one is in April, Earth Day. But we've had the completion of Project Downtown, the right-of-way sidewalk use legislation has gone in, the Lentil Festival and Parade, First Down Fridays that we hosted with WSU, or WSU hosted, I should say, with us. Trick or treat and rolling that into a First Down Friday was awesome. Pumpkin Wall, the community table event for bringing out and having a meal together. Holiday Fest and tree lighting, Starlight Market, Market on Main, Pullman Days of Service, Community Heart and Soul. We're working on the America 250 celebration this year. We've had some church spaghetti feeds, food drives, all sorts of things. So a lot of stuff there. We're going to continue the Music on Main and concerts in the park, movies in the park as well. I'm going to leave that for Megan to announce. There's an announcement on that coming. Strategic tourism is the next one. That's a teaser. Yeah, you got to be tuned in next week.
You're teasing her, too.
Not you, the other Megan, sorry.
You, okay.
I looked at her and said Megan, and yeah. It's all good. Strategic tourism was the last long-term priority area. That was to promote and advance the strategic tourism and marketing plan. We had requests from proposals for tourism, promotion, marketing, and event coordination services. We signed the professional service agreement with the Pullman Chamber of Commerce. They are now in lockstep with us for the next 3 years for the city's tourism contract. And that's a good thing. The 2-year goals, the first one is community engagement and communications to increase elected community outreach and public engagement, including an annual town hall and open house. Continue to advance and improve community customer experience. So we've done a lot of things here. The website changes that we've done, the increased social media presence, this Megan. Council town hall that we had here a couple months ago, which I thought was well received, especially by the community. We've given the ability to have permits submitted online in a digital format, and that's dramatically decreased the amount of walk-ins that are necessary and the paper that we're processing, and it's actually increased some of the response times and permit issuance times as well. We've went live with the utility billing portal. We had some struggles with that at the beginning, but that's worked through now. The periodic update, or the comp plan, is still ongoing and will be now for a few more months. And then we had the staff open house back, when was that? Like late summer. So the other things that we've done just recently with community engagement and communications, we put out there how, and you're going to see it today, the goals that we solicited from the community and the public open house that we had where they came and talked to you one-on-one about that. So we captured all of those written comments, compiled them, and we'll go over those later today as well. So that's been a good thing. City department visioning. So this was to advance short and long-term city department planning, which includes organizational structure, facilities, and programs designed to improve community quality of life. Develop and implement the financial strategies necessary to sustainable funding, program areas to review, include but not limited to the 311 system. So we'll be working on that towards the end of this year. We're completing the enterprise asset management system, and once that's done this summer, then we're going to start into the 311 system. We've got a CIP project that's on the list for 2027, and if that's approved with the CIP, then we'll start looking for specifying out here at the end of 26 so we can get going on 27. Zoning areas was done in 2025. Arterial reviews still upcoming in 27 and 28. Trail lighting is ongoing and should be in this 2031 CIP. That might change. I don't remember how that landed in our preliminary stuff. Transit services is ongoing. Multimodal safety routes is ongoing. Urban forestry is scheduled for probably 2028. Off-leash dog areas is in 2028. Design standards for 27, 28. And then to be determined on a recreation sports complex. The next one was economic development, and that was to support community businesses and economic growth, including a vibrant and active downtown for all. Preliminary teaser, that will be one of the topics at next week's study session on Tuesday. Sean Miller will be here to talk about how things are going with a lot of these items here as well. We've got Project Downtown is completed, right-of-way sidewalk use, as I mentioned before, the multiple outdoor markets that have gone on and will be going on this summer. The Business Blend monthly meetings, which have been fairly good. The improved coordination efforts with the Pullman Chamber of Commerce, clearly partnering with them on the tourism contract has been there as well. And the economic development focus in the works with WSU and other community partners such as the hospital, Chamber of Commerce, school district as well. And that was input that we had with the president a couple weeks ago. Staff support, promote a supportive work environment which values our employees, promotes their wellness, and celebrates success. We've had a lot of really good things here with the Brown Bag Leadership Series that former city administrator kind of started and I've carried through as well. We're working through a book now called Performative Outrage, which I will be delivering a copy to each of you here soon once staff gets through that. I know Councilmember Fajarin's already read that as well. We've had a wellness fair that we usually have in October-ish, monthly events from our wellness committee, and then we've got another kind of just a citywide event committee as well, so we try to have something going on at least once a month. And the next one is this coming week, and it is
Munch Madness. We're doing a snack bracket at the library on Thursday.
We've had Cheers for Peers, which is where staff can celebrate other staff for just doing random acts of kindness kind of thing. It might be help me out with a project, held the door for me, whatever it is. Staff can celebrate other staff as well. And we had the series early on in last year, the Pullman 5x5s, where you get to kind of know the city staff more in a informal way, I guess, formally informal. But those were well received by the community as well. The boards and commissions, review boards, commissions, and committees' committee responsibilities and relevance. This one's more for me, the mayor, and the city administrator, or city attorney, I'm sorry. We're working through some of those right now. Some of those may have some code implications. We had to pause that work last year, but we're starting to work on that again this year, so. And wayfinding was the last of the 2-year goals. To enhance welcoming community entrances and wayfinding. The Project Downtown Pullman, we added 7 wayfinding groups of signs and the 2 kiosks that are down in each of the plazas. We removed about 20 or so outdated and unnecessary signs because of those and because of everything else that was there. Some of them referenced businesses that were no longer in existence, and so we pulled those off and trying to clean up the appearance of the downtown entryway as well. Updated existing directional signage. We have the new Pullman Moscow Regional Airport terminal signage that we installed, and working on the 4 Hills wayfinding elements. It's kind of in the back burner, but it's still there as well. So with that, that kind of rounds up the goals and priorities for 24-25. And if you have any questions on that, I might have an answer.
Any questions on them? Eric?
I know when we signed the chamber contract, where we were supposed to create some KPIs between us and the chamber, have those been thought through yet?
They have, and I don't have those in front of me today. They were working to get those about a month ago, and I think those are drafted. I'm hoping that Sean can hopefully daylight those on Tuesday. If not, we will definitely have Executive Director Chittenden here in April to talk more about that. So either Tuesday or April.
Yeah. Two items just to bring, if you look at when we get into the department visioning piece, you'll see we had some things where this is what we want to do, and then we had some where program areas to review. And so as you're thinking about goals, it may be a goal of, I would like the city to do this. Or the goal may be, I'm seeing other cities to do this, should we, or the community comes up with this idea, but we're not quite sure what the unintended consequences are, and that's where it'd be more of, I'd like the city to review this. And so depending on, as we go through this, there may be some things where, yes, we want to move forward on it, or yes, we think we want to move forward on it, but before we put the stamp on it, we want a better review. So that's, and I'm just trying to give you kind of the different categories that these goals can fall in. The other thing, if we look at our priority areas, we identified 6. If we look at the 2-year goals, there's 19 that are in there if you do a count. And that kind of gives you a feel of what we're going to be trying to do is consolidate down so that we're in a manageable size of goals. So the next piece in this is really what are your, as you've been thinking about goals, as you've been hearing from the community, as you've been hearing from our staff, and I'd like to start with our most senior and work our way down, but I don't know if Nathan, if you want to kick off and then go to Pat.
Would be fine. I think my goals are fairly simple. Sorry, I have them on here. Okay. So I know, and Francis, you and I, Ms. Mayor, you and I had talked about this previously, and you had actually brought this up, and I think it's an interesting one to look at, which is designation of Purple Heart City. And that is something that I think as we move forward, and we've seen this happening with the Veterans Park, the ruck that we had through Pullman, there's an increasing interest, and I would say need to connect more to the people who are here that are veterans and those ROTC at WSU. So I would like to explore that. I think once we have some funding, I don't know when that will be, but reopening discussions on joining the NLC, National League of Cities. That's very important. We've been focused in Washington. Now we need to kind of extend that out. So there may be more later, but at this time, I think those are the 2 major ones. I would like us to try to find some way for us to have more one-on-one time with staff or department heads. Somebody had floated an idea way back, one of the department heads, of just a few council members, not a quorum, coming to some of the leadership type of meetings that you guys have, but I know there are some challenges with that regarding, so I'm not sure how to navigate that, but I did want to bring that up as just a thought.
Great. Pat?
So I guess probably the biggest one that I have and will continue to have until we get there is getting to yes and how we do that. Even as most recently as the last week, I've had people come to me to say, I tried to do this and I was told, no, I couldn't do that. And you're on the city council, can you help me get a sign approved for my business? And it's like, here's who you need to talk to, but that's just to illustrate that we do still have those perceptions out there that we are not easy to do business with. I'll continue to say Megan Vining and her recreation programs should be our guiding light, because everything that they do is all about getting to yes, and how can we do that better? So that continues to be something that's high on my list. And not to take away another council member's priorities, but I think Trevor brought this up at a council meeting a few times ago, and that is having a better visual relationship with some of our more visible departments, i.e. planning and the Planning Commission. And we seem to be at cross purposes with that group. We hear one thing at a staff level, and yet we have other people coming to us individually saying, no, this isn't what's going on. And so I think we have to kind of peel back the layers on the onion here to figure out where we are with some of this. And I say planning because that seems to be the one that's in everybody's focus, and just looking at some of the goals and priorities that we've got here. Short-term rental seems to come up time and time again, and that seems to be the biggest bone of contention there. But again, I think it's about being more transparent. And this is not a goal or a priority, but one that I'm struggling with, where we are so restricted from a financial standpoint. I would like to see us, when we're considering future goals and priorities, identify those that are realistic from a financial standpoint versus blue sky, and that we might never get there. And there's one thing to continue goals from one planning period to the next, but there's another that says, this isn't going to happen, so maybe we really do need to defer this and review it later, not to continue to put it on the list in case we might be able to get to it. But I think the financial one is the most realistic thing that we need to be reviewing. And so,
Earlier you referenced, you made the comment related to the sign piece. Are other people hearing, so there is a sign ordinance out there that is followed, the sign ordinance the city council approved, it wasn't, you. Are you saying that's something that you'd like to see brought back and at least reviewed by council, the current sign ordinance? Okay, that's,
Yeah,
I was reading between the lines, but I wanted to make sure that was what you were asking,
I think the other thing that we hear sometimes in the city is like at least a perception by people in town is inconsistency in enforcement of some of those things, right? So if you see your neighbor and you get jealous, and then it's like, oh, sorry, it's a rule. It's like, like I think there's a little bit of that too.
Okay, so anything else?
no, I think I'm good for
Okay.
now.
Well, and yeah, we're here for the next 3 hours.
Tip your server.
Plus, so Ann?
Thank you. I guess a finite goal that I would like to see is, we've seen mention over the years of having some sort of a family-friendly play area in the downtown core somewhere, whether it's High Street, Pine Street, someplace where families can come and get some refreshment, children can play, enjoy the outdoors. That's one actual goal I'd like to see, physical thing that could hopefully happen in the next 2 years, or at least bring it back up to the top. And in relation to that, just we've been hearing a lot about the cuts, of course, and I do take to heart the recreational opportunities for residents and things like the Barracuda Swim Club, which we've seen the response on that. If we can, in the budget process, if we can prioritize the things that are sort of direct service to our residents, such as recreational activities and opportunities, the library, things that people enjoy in our city and are at little to no cost. That is important to me. Continue to promote business and tourism so we can increase the sales tax. And we have a good partnership with the chamber, and I will say that I think the new staffing there they're just great. They're working together really well and very approachable and very easy to work with. And my final thing is, I think we all saw or have heard the op-ed piece from Glenn Osterhout. He's a WSU alum, I can't remember what group, he's part of a...
Cougs First.
Thank you, Cougs First. I heard his interview on Pullman Radio last week about his whole goal is to let's re-energize our football weekends in the fall and get it to the level it was before COVID, and then COVID happened, and then the conference fell apart. And so one thing that he mentioned, and I thought it was just a good idea, not this is necessarily a goal, but a suggestion, is he brought up the Walmart parking situation. They used to have free RV parking there. And he said maybe somebody at the city could approach Walmart and say, could we try this again? Could we charge $50 to $75 a night and then use those funds to provide security for Friday and Saturday nights? And I thought, well, and so I don't know how realistic that is, but I thought that was a very reasoned proposal with a potential solution that would allow more, because he's concerned about now the lack of short-term rentals in the area that are being commercially posted. They've gone down significantly, and also the lack of adequate RV space outside of the campus. So anyway, that was something I thought was interesting, and that might be, again, it doesn't have to be a formal goal. It could go into let's promote more people coming into town, but that's one specific.
I would almost think Pullman Moscow Building Supply was.
That was mentioned. They talked about several spots around town.
And it's something where the businesses have to agree to do with it, and businesses have had a bad experience, and so that's why they don't allow it.
Exactly, but if we're providing, if security, if there's surveillance and there's a charge also, that's going to sort of filter out who.
And it is a business viable for the business to do it.
It's like find the way to yes, right? Somebody else mentioned the movie theater parking lot, but it's my understanding the movie theater is under contract, right? It's been sold or is being sold.
As has the Pullman Building Supply.
Okay.
So it's new owners with that. Tony, did you have a reference?
Part of my
related to that?
understanding of why we didn't use Walmart anymore is the retaining wall. The weight of the RVs. There were some issues there, and that's part of why we weren't using that anymore. That was my understanding. I talked to somebody.
Third time.
Interesting. Eric?
Well, I brought handouts.
Oh, look at you.
So,
That goes with your coat
Supposed to be
tie.
organized.
I will keep my notes.
He brought his tie.
I know, you've been wearing ties more
Stop wearing
often. What is
suits,
this
I'm just gonna
about?
be correct.
It's like a big family, come on.
I'm saying that out of love, of course. So I'll keep this, focused.
Yeah.
I just have two proposing goals, both grounded in the work with the Housing Committee, and then obviously, we've already talked about the 3-in-1 system, which I'm so excited. That's already part of the CIP as well as what staff's working on. 112 pages of community input. Housing came up over 100 times. I don't know if you all counted. Buying homes, they're frustrated, particularly with rental conditions. We have a plan. I want us to adopt it around, the Housing Committee has a plan just around building 30 new owner-occupied housing units. So I'll just read the two goals I have. By December 2027, advance 30 new owner-occupied housing units in missing middle range. This comes straight from the Housing Committee. And publish a city housing resource page that includes down payment assisted programs, tenant rights, landlord responsibilities, and how to report code violations. And report measurable progress to council quarterly, half time through the year. It doesn't necessarily need to be quarterly. And then goal number 2 already talks about 311 system. By December 2027, implement a 311 citizen request system that routes inquiries to the appropriate department within 24 hours. I know Sean does a lot of that routing with his emails already. And provide residents with real-time status updates. This is something a 301 system or a CRM could work mirror
good target rate for resolution is within 80% within the first 48 hours on a first response resolution would be a good goal. So included some additional information in those handouts, but those are the two goals that I'm proposing to adopt.
Okay.
With that, Brian?
Okay, so I love especially Eric's first goal and the general theme about the getting to yes. For me, my biggest things are, and I have some more specifics, but prioritizing a healthy budget with a focus on business growth and home ownership, kind of overlaps a little bit with Eric's. Becoming a benchmark for college towns, again, a little more details about incubation and getting people to be able to share their ideas and turn them into business. And finding ways, another thing around that is finding ways to minimize duplicative costs, whether it's between us or the college or the schools or other places, figure out ways to be more creative in that use.
Do you have examples on that duplicative cost?
Like, I think there was one example where the Parks Department came and shared, a outside consultant shared that we didn't have any rectangular park area on the north side of town. But, I mean, if you look at the stuff on Valley Avenue or the tennis courts up there, or there's several examples of probably some of the very nicest rectangular spaces in the entire city. So how do we figure out how to kind of count that instead of, I think there's just examples like that where like, how do we think together? Because like as a resident, I don't really care that it's WSU or at the high school or at the middle school or at a park. I care, am I allowed to go up there and use it? So just thinking from that perspective. Again, like I definitely don't think this is a park-specific thing, but I think
Great.
that's an example.
That's helpful, that context.
And then the last one, lean into the border town reality and make it a strength. I think you talked a little bit about the idea of like the difference of not having to pay income tax in Washington. There are definitely things that are different about Idaho. There's definitely things that are different about Washington. Not all of it's good, not all of it's bad, regardless of which way you're talking. How do we just make sure that we're always intentional about our reality, whether it's, benchmarking against other cities, both in in Washington and in Idaho. And then another thing around that is working on ways to comply with state regulations in creative and efficient ways and be an inspiration for other cities. Another one around that, just as more specifics, is build an alliance with other border towns to share and educate officials and impact state decisions and share what works and what doesn't work.
Each of your goals has multiple parts.
I know, I was cheating, probably.
So you had minimized duplicative, so if we can go to the first one, prioritize healthy budget, you had a second piece with that, and then home ownership. What was that second one?
Focus on business growth.
Was that
On
business?
which one?
So the first one, prioritize healthy budget.
Focus on business growth and
Business
home
growth.
ownership, yeah.
And business growth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have a handout?
Mine's not near, so I have like a old one. Yeah, I'll give you what I have, so.
I'm just kidding, yeah.
Well, and because what we're trying to do is we're hearing your ideas and understand we have to get this down to.
We can always email you too.
I think there's a lot of stuff that I think overlaps a lot between several of us, so.
Could I make one point about the border town reality? I will say, I think one of the best examples that we've seen very recently of cooperation between the two cities of Moscow and Pullman is the collaboration for a farmer's market in both cities. When the DPA actually approached the Moscow Farmers Market to just ask them about, hey, we might want to start one, and the director actually said, oh my gosh, please do. We have more applicants than we can accommodate. And so out of that little market that started last summer, now we've got Market on Main, and it's going to grow into a larger thing. And that's just because instead of saying, oh, we can't have it because Moscow has it, yes, we can, again, yes, we can. So I think, not so much, I mean, yes, at the city level, but even as council members, as nonprofits who are out there working, we can reach out to our counterparts in Moscow and maybe just do things at that level as well.
Good, good.
Earlier this week, I heard somebody refer to our relationship with Moscow at, let me see if I can get this right, co-opetition. So cooperation and competition, that it's a good thing. I mean, that it's, that it's a healthy thing.
It really is, and so that you understand, this last week in DC, I was with Mayor Lewis, and we were together advocating for regional things. I mean, we were together at the table related to the freight bypass. So I mean, we were together working on things that impacts both of our communities. So there is a lot of collaboration piece works that way.
I will say just real quick, and I don't want to belabor on this, but, one of the things we do have that, the cooperation piece, I like that, Pat. We have a really cool bunch of small towns right around us. And I keep talking about this at City Council. We need to start, and I tried to talk to the president, when we were at the WSU thing, I was also talking about, we have a region, we keep thinking it's just Pullman. We have a region that has a lot of really cool things going on. And if we can lever that cooperation piece about the different events, the Haunted Palouse that goes on, I mean, talk about RV, talk about bringing people in for that tourism thing. What I got when I went to the Haunted Hospital, and this was like 2 years ago, I talked to the people that were running that, and they said oftentimes what goes on is they send people, they get big groups, and they send people to stay in Pullman. And because we have that housing. So being able to leverage the regional aspect is really something we can do. We have the web slow boat races, we have all of these things, but we're thinking so minutely in, just Pullman.
Yeah.
So, anyway, sorry.
No. This is what this day is about. So, Tawny? Sorry, Trevor.
She picked heads.
Alphabetical.
Yeah.
It's alphabetical.
Okay. So I really didn't know what today was going to look like, so I apologize. And Eric, I will attempt to do things through the SMART goal in the future because I think that makes things, I think it makes things easier.
He's the only one that does that.
I think it's a great idea.
If
So,
you look at the old ones,
everything I'm about to
yeah.
say is kind of like vibes based, and that's kind of hard when you're trying to make goals, right? Because, so I have a couple of different things. One is really kind of a big cloud idea, and it's how to work like public-private partnerships, look at things like tax increment funding and grants to try and bring businesses into the vacant spaces to make us a 12-month town. Specifically, I'm interested in making that sports center happen. But anything that will get people here 12 months and spending money is what I want to do, and I'd like to be aggressive about it. When we brought in the utilities, we increased the fees. I had a couple people reach out to me, and one of the ideas that came out of that, and I found examples where this is done in Seattle, Tacoma, Spokane, but they had the utilities on a sliding scale so that if you made less money, you could pay less in utilities. There is a catch to that. We do have a lot of students here in this town, and if we did everything to sliding scale, that would probably hurt the town. We would have to figure out a way to tie it to Social Security or kids on lunches. We'd have to find something that we could tie it to that wouldn't then, necessarily hurt the city, but we could maybe set up a sliding scale on that. And then get to yes, long-term rentals, housing, I think those are all really great. The long-term rental piece, I would really love to see us take a look at as well, so.
Yeah, and so housing is something that's been talked a lot about, but what we need to understand, and this is where we need to think about this as a whole, is housing. You have your permanent housing, affordable housing, you have long-term housing, you have affordability for long-term housing, and you have your short-term rentals. And if we pull a lever on this one, it affects those other two. If we pull a lever on short-term rentals, it actually affects then the other two. So we need to think about it as a whole when we're working in this housing space.
Yeah, and I absolutely understand that, but I would say as a person
I
who
was
works
supporting you.
primarily, with students, some of the housing stories I hear are so,
Yeah.
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 So anyways, anything we can do to make, because they're going to be alumni someday, and we want them to come back. We want them to spend their money here. We want them to think about us in a different way, you know? So,
Yeah. It was interesting. I was talking with a realtor this week, and they were talking about how, there's a home, and a parent will buy the home for the kids to live in it while they're here in school. But these realtors have like sold this home like 20 times now. I mean, and maybe it's 10 or 15, but they use the number 20 because they buy it for 4 years, then they sell it to the next parent, then they sell, So some of them hold it, but others, this home, it just rotates, and the realtor every 4 years sells it again. Is there helping them sell it again. It was an interesting conversation.
Well, and the cost keeps going up, too.
Yeah.
And I think it's important, though, that our inspection team here at the city is really, really helpful in a lot of that. I've had to use them because my own house has been very so-so. And I will say on the housing thing, there was a meeting with Catholic Charities, so I had one with Catholic Charities and the homeless group. And Francis now, the
They've
mayor
reached
now
out.
has a
We're working on
connection
getting the
with
meeting
that,
set.
and they're interested in helping out where they can with some of that missing housing piece and helping in the lower income housing.
And it would be a private-public partnership. They wouldn't
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
it wouldn't just be a private partnership is what their model is.
Yeah, we've been in their eye for a little bit, so I think it'll be good.
Okay, Trevor?
All right, I will do my best also to make him
You're doing
as
fine.
close to SMART
We're all-
goals.
we're-
No, I actually no, but I will
You
say
didn't know you set a
I
standard.
will say we do the same thing at work, so I do appreciate you bringing it up because it's something that I'm familiar with as well. So I think I have some goals that are different from other folks. So hopefully it's value add. I think it will be. One of the things that I'd like to see by the end of 2027 is an increase in lodging supply, specifically with short-term rentals, of available supply from today by about 25% for visitors that are coming to Pullman for event weekends. And the other one is maybe not as specific, maybe it has a little bit more nuance, but it is one that I had heard from various groups when we were doing the town hall, is an analysis or possible change to busing routes that may include direct route from areas like apartment land to Walmart or to other areas of interest for students. Right now, I know the bus routes, they operate on like radial routes, and there aren't as many direct routes or direct options, so there oftentimes is a lot of time spent on those buses. So one that may be a little bit more direct, maybe is also able to increase efficiency in some ways for transit and for students as well.
And then, and I know we're going to be touching on it as we do the review of some other things. For myself, a couple of items that I would like to see what I'm looking at is in the long term, we have some bonds coming before us. We might be needing to getting more community support around some of the projects that we're working on. So I'd like to develop a residence academy that's designed to build community communication, understanding, support, and advocacy. And this is something the school district has done this very well with academy, but also a support group. I would like to see us do a AI technology review to see are there aspects with AI that allows us to be able to be more efficient. And you were talking about the 311 system, but can we roll into what are the top 400 questions that people call and ask us, and can that actually be an AI agent that manages that piece so that when someone calls, you get a consistent answer on these, but then if they have a question that isn't within that list, it then kicks them out to a real person. So we have that way to be able to do efficiency, but accuracy in the midst. So are there AI aspects that we can incorporate in for efficiencies within what we're doing? And those are just the two that I was going to put out there right now. There's a lot of I'm excited about what's being discussed and where we're going. Just with this discussion that went on, are there any follow-ups, questions? Eric?
Thank you, and I agree with, I wanted to cut down to two, but my third actually had something to do with AI framework on city use. We know I use it pretty often. We know staff is using it pretty often. But what's going to be the framework that the city uses it to make sure that we're protecting people's information?
Yeah.
AI is being employed safely. There's a lot of facial recognition stuff that's out there that's using AI. What's the city's AI policy, I guess, is bottom line, is what I'm asking for.
Yeah, it'd be all,
Yeah.
Ann?
Also, I'm concerned about it displacing jobs, employees, or eventually. So I would want to be careful about it eliminating the need for, you know what I mean?
Well, there has to be
I
the
mean,
review.
eventually, yeah.
And the intent is not for replacement of jobs. It's for us to be more accurate and efficient in our communication and the information that our community can get.
Well, and consistency, too.
And consistency.
Depending on who you ask, you're going to get that many different answers, whereas an AI first blush at it, you're going to get the same, hopefully, you're going to get the same answer all the time. But that also depends on how the question is asked, right?
If there's something that AI can do really well and efficiently, what that really means is that would be money that we could spend on someone that could teach the Barracuda swim team or whatever it is. You know what I mean? It's like, let's figure out what we can do efficiently and then use that money and people for what's going to help the community the most.
Okay.
Could I just jump
Yes.
in with one more
Yes.
thing? One thing that I did forget to mention when it was truly my turn was that I would like to see us pursue more public-private partnerships. And I know that there's money out there. And I know that there are people that are specifically interested in the whole sports complex concept, and that we're missing the boat in terms of any weekend of the year, you can go up to Spokane for some sort of club competition. And so when that happens, people are going up there, they're spending the night, they're shopping, they're eating. And what is it going to take for us to take away some of the, not take away, but keep some of that market here? And yeah, and it doesn't have to be city-driven, but that's where the public-private piece comes in. And oftentimes, it can be a lot more cost-effective to do it that way, because the city would have, has their specific rules and regulations in terms of getting bids and you know, how much something is costing to build. Whereas if you've got that private side, that can happen in a whole, you know, different levels. So I would like us to pursue some of those kinds of things.
Okay?
So, Francis.
Yes.
So as I was hearing all this, I think might be worthwhile, but maybe this is more along the lines of Sean or yourself, Francis, is kind of a yearly SWOT analysis of the organization. You know, looking at what are, you know, the current strength. We hear always, as a council, here's what we hate, here's what we hate, here's what we hate. Being able to understand, and we do get kind of high-level views of this is what's great, what's going on with the different departments, but really looking at what are the strengths that we have, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats. I think when you get such a tunnel view of we hate this, we lose sight of what are we doing good, and then also of the opportunities where we could do better, taking the emotion out of the whole thing. But maybe that's more of a high-level management view, but it may be something for us to look at as a council. So maybe a yearly being able to review something like that. So just a thought.
Okay. So now if you can pull out your city council goals and priorities, the 2024-2025, I'm just going to walk through them, and we had, and identify, are there items, this is the long-term priority one, and then our 2 years. So the current ones, are there any that you would like to see included in, and some of them you've already talked about in this document, but as we look at it within the first of all, did you like how we have the long-term priority areas where there's work groups that council members are coming together working on, in addition to then the regular 2-year goals? And do we like that structure?
I think it's realistic. I think it accommodates ideas. It's kind of like the comprehensive plan, you know, something gets put on it, but it may not, it just keeps moving up the.
It helps to keep things moving.
Yeah.
And this is the first time that we had separated this out. So it was 2 years ago, this was our trial. And so I'm just for feedback.
Long-term visioning is important, so.
Okay, Eric? Look, I thought it was.
Oh, you did. I was going to
Okay.
say, I like committee work, especially when we are channeling the long-term priority areas. I know we've had different successes of these different committees. I think we're really strong with housing because of the foundation that Megan set up. But, you know, definitely it is our responsibility as council members to drive the work of these committees. I wouldn't, you know, staff is there to assist, but we are there to do the work.
Yeah.
I just want to really emphasize that. I love this work. You know, we meet only twice a month, and this is where a lot of the work is done on these goals. So had a lot of success in the housing committee
Okay.
group.
Well, let's, oh, sorry, Nathan.
I have a totally different view. I don't think, look, been on lots of committees. There's a lot of wasted time. And some of the committees, and this actually came up with a lot of the citizens that I spoke to, the time is something that they're really looking at like, wow, you guys spend a lot of time doing things that don't necessarily need to be done. And the committee work, I think the housing is great. I'm not saying anything about it. Some of these, though, bypass work gets to a certain point where it doesn't need us driving it. It's driven by the experts that are there. We can't do much more. The in-town railways, I mean, there is a certain amount we can do, and then it's out of our hands. I think we need to evaluate where some of this stuff is actually going. I believe in long-term visioning, yes, but where where are we getting in the way of the actual long-term success of this by saying, this is where we think it should go, but where is it actually able to go?
You know, and each committee doesn't have to meet at the same
Right.
consistent level. Tawny?
Can I just ask a clarifying question? Do you dislike the long-term planning, or are you saying that some of these specific goals should be sunsetting?
No, that's exactly, I appreciate the question. So, no, long-term visioning is very important. But the specifics here, there's a point where you have to say, we've done what we can. Now we need to hand it off to who else needs to take, the front of it.
Okay.
The challenge that I find with especially a lot of elected officials that I've met, they get so entrenched into a committee that they actually bog it down. Because they're like, no, that's not what I've been working on for the last 15 years. But in order for it to move forward, it needs to take a different view. You need a different person, like an expert taking the front. And sometimes that happens with us.
I would argue that, I think the bypass is a perfect example of how a committee work actually did help move this forward, because Sean was our staff liaison, and he reached out.
I was on with you.
I know, with RTPO, I'm telling for everybody. What we did was we talked about it, and then together with staff, made the connections, and then RTPO was also working on the freight study. And now I feel like, now it's established, and I would actually say we could probably, I think I agree with you. We, as a council and committees, have done as much as we can, because it has moved forward, okay, out of the railways haven't. So is that still a long-term goal? Because people still ask us, we want more trails, we want that change down at the playfields. But it's much more complicated. So to me, those two are very divergent. One exemplifies the example of a successful committee, and the other one is something that, yes, it's beyond our control, but we can still talk to our legislators. We are still getting input on that ground. That's my view.
Why I asked this question is, this was our first 2 year into it. We could take these long-term priorities and maybe we split them, and there's one set that is, there's not a need for the council to be meeting together on these, but it's something that still is this long-term goal, which means it would fall into myself and Sean for shepherding these at that point in time, but making sure we're communicating to the council what's going on. So I'm trying to think of ways in which we can do both of what I'm hearing people say.
Well, and I think some, sorry to interrupt you, Ann. Some of these things naturally lend themselves to committee work, committee review, committee process. Others don't. And I'm sorry, I would disagree with you on the bypass, because as I recall, we had one meeting where we started identifying things, and then it was like, well, we can't do that because the county is working on it, and we can't do that. So there were things that we couldn't do, and so just by virtue of that, we were not an ongoing, consistent committee. Does that?
Yes. I was actually, what I was going to say was, I don't recall that we were really doing that much. We were saying, this is what the history was, and then we were like, we can't do anything more.
Well,
and
but
then-
to me,
because too many other groups were involved that were
but
out
we
of our
also,
control.
through that committee work, we were able to clearly delineate that, not only for ourselves, but for the staff, and also for our legislators who we give these goals to every year.
Well, and then when
you know?
Francis would ask for a progress report on this committee, we could say, well,
We can do.
Tawny?
Yeah, sorry, I just have a clarifying question.
Yeah.
So at this point, we're trying to determine what our 2 year goals are. We're trying to determine which of our long-term priority areas we want to continue working on, and which of the long-term priority areas have maybe sunsetted into a group that we're still interested in, but a group that's maybe beyond us? Is that the level that we're talking about right now?
Well, so if we go back pre 2 years ago, what was happening was council would come together and say, we'd like to set goals. And someone would say, well, I'm really interested in a bypass. And the statement was made, you can't accomplish it in 2 years, so that can't be one of your 2-year goals. So it would either be an afterthought and just left in there, or it wouldn't get in there at all. And so I was trying to find a mechanism for it.
Yeah,
I'm thinking, so I think for today, what I would recommend is, let's keep it in the context of, is this a long-term or not? And then once we identify them, come back at a future meeting and have a discussion in which one of these we want to actually set up work groups that work on them, and which ones are long-term and in some other way they're moved forward. So as opposed to trying to do that, I mean, we're really higher level today, but I wanted to at least start this conversation in it.
So we're going to focus on goals today, and then we'll figure out how that works with committees and everything later.
The logistics later.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, so
The gory details, is that what you
I heard gory details. Okay.
Let me get some napkins.
And real quick, I just don't, I'm not trying to downplay any of the things that have been done in these. I just want to make sure that we are not just creating committees to justify our own existence on those committees, and then to continue them just because we have an ego about keeping them. The housing actually came from not the city, but Megan's separate work, which was then folded into the city. So the city really didn't have a whole lot, and it was Megan that did a lot, and then it was folded in, so.
Eric? Are you good? Okay.
Yeah, no, I'll just say I agree wholeheartedly with the conversation at Nathan, especially on sunsetting. I think developing long-term goals and then seeing what commissions are going to match up to those.
It makes sense. Great. So in that context, as we're talking through this, then really we're trying to, what goals do you want to see continuing to move forward? We won't today have the conversation of, are they long-term, are they 2-year goals? What'll happen is we'll take all the goals that we get, staff and myself will put these together into a format, and then you'll be able to pick apart and say, no, that should be up here or down here, and then we start that.
Are we talking about the long-term?
So we're gonna work our way down. So bypass, is that something that you would like to continue to see?
I think it needs to be sunsetted.
Well, I think it kind of becomes an administrative
Yeah.
goal, not sunsetted, but we've got I'm sorry, Tawny. We've got the mechanism in place now. You've got the process started between the two communities. If for nothing else, it would be to continue to support that, and then that goes away. I mean, it doesn't go away, but it goes off this list.
My suggestion is that it's in a line on a piece of paper somewhere, so that we're still working on it, but it's not necessarily a committee. But I would hate to see that go away. I really would.
Sean, thoughts?
Might I suggest the bypass in concept is more of a project, right? Everybody thinks about it as like San Kirkendall route as a bypass. And maybe the goal might center around supporting the overall goal of that bypass, which is to reduce truck traffic in the downtown core. And so that then could lead into support of a project, which is San Kirkendall, improvements to Bishop, improvements to the Albion route, something to that effect. So that the goal isn't necessarily a bypass, but what is the true reason that you want the bypass? It's to reduce truck.
So
You could-
we have two different terms, support and then active. So active is an active committee that's actually being done, and then support is out of an active committee.
Well, right now, we're in what's important to you, and then we'll figure out we will put that into a future.
Yeah, it seems like as a long-term priority, I agree with Sean, it seems like it's more a theme, like you could almost put Trevor's comment about easier ways for students to go get their shopping done almost in that same thing, or the idea of, like some convenient way for alternate traffic, which I think we heard from Glenn at various times for people coming in on a football weekend, just like traffic in general, right?
Okay, so I hear support for continuing that in a fashion.
And I do like Sean's idea
With, okay, housing,
Active, I would say, still.
I'm
Yeah,
seeing
yeah,
housing.
yeah.
In-town railways.
It's in a gray area because we need the legislative, correct? And then Colfax has its own idea. We have our own that's trying.
So,
It's
so,
landowners in the middle.
Yeah.
well, so,
It's
and,
murky.
yeah, well, where we're at in that is, there is a proviso related to so the legislative have a proviso, what railroads are actually needed. And they're looking at if the dams go away, what railroads are needed. That proviso is due to the legislature December of this year. So so our legislator did not want to take action until that document is up. We've gotten some initial information from DOT that our railroads are not included in that, but it's just not in that document yet. So that creates that opportunity. The next one is, then can we rail bank in town? And I'm probably getting more into the weeds than I need to. That's, right now, I'm working with congressional offices on specific language to whether or not this can happen or not. And then this will come back to our legislators. So it's, I guess the question I'd say is, how, is this important to do? And I would say, yes, it's very important, because from whether it's from a beautification, whether it's an activation, things like this.
I think
Tony?
we need to support. You're good, you started.
But it doesn't necessarily need to be a committee that's doing
No,
it.
just like bypass, we support it.
So we support it.
It's not,
Yeah.
More
Yeah.
recreational activities and access in our communities.
like I was saying, supportive, not active.
I was just going to say the same thing. I've had at least 5 tables at Rico's come in and ask specifically about this, so I would say that in the community, people are very interested in this, and we should keep it on a piece of paper somewhere that we're still,
In some way, for somebody to come and report on we're waiting for legislative session, or here's the latest, something, but it
Yeah.
doesn't mean a committee.
No.
Okay? Strategic influence and partnership.
Aren't you and Sean?
And that's,
just actively working on that?
right, then that's more, and that would actually fall more into that role.
Admin.
As well, we talk about not having necessarily a work group on it,
So as a council, just supportive of your efforts?
so supportive of the efforts, or,
Oh, so I would like probably more bite on the strategic influence and partnerships. We have WSU and university coordination. Most mentioned from those comments, 133 times. So folks want to see more coordination with WSU, with the community. Who's the gentleman who we talked about earlier?
Glenn?
I'm sure he would, support that as well, so.
Yeah, and also Pat mentioned public-private partnerships. I think that kind of rolls into that. I think the sports 12-month town. I think there's definitely what counts as a rectangular field and where falls into that.
so maybe this is a pretty important one, because we're trying to bring up revenue, economic growth,
so
and that
I'm
requires,
seeing a shift in that way then.
Yes, yeah.
But, so council's role, though, would still be to,
Well, I think we're
or was
talking
it more
about just
administrative?
non-importance, and then we'll talk about-
So we included in, but then, and that's one that, in our first draft, we would move it more into a committee in our first draft. For you, and you can think more on it. Go ahead.
I think also, and I understand what people are saying about more involvement with WSU, but I tell you what, a few of us have been on for a while. We coordinate a lot with WSU. We had buses with full WSU wraps on. We, Glenn, Francis, there's been a lot, and perhaps maybe we need to talk about it more. Perhaps that's a part of it, but we are pretty darn intertwined with WSU, always have been. Since, the only hiccup was maybe when there was, Elson Floyd was here, there was some challenges there. But other than that, we work very closely with them, so.
You're right, Nathan. I just wonder why there is a gap between how much partnership we do and our community asking for more.
Well, and
Can I make a quick comment on that? One thing to notice about community asking for more in this is that on a higher level, if you just search for, say, WSU in the community comments, you'll get one number, and if you scroll through them, you'll see one number if you're just counting for that. But one thing to note is that while there were a lot of community comments that were related to partnerships with WSU, many of them came from the same person over and over again, so that didn't count as multiple necessarily in that overall goal setting. WSU community comments were only from different people. Partnership WSU was only mentioned 14 times.
I will say, when President Cantwell came here and talked, she talked about needs and opportunities for more partnership in different types of ways, like incubators, those types of things. She didn't say, hey, don't worry, we're good. She said, I think there's some new ways with a new president and new leaderships where we could partner in some new ways.
Keep it in there.
And to that end, I think what's easiest, for us to focus on is that local partnership. So we're meeting with the school board soon. We are meeting with ASWSU. We have met with the county commissioners in the past. So to me, that's a key component of this, as well as the staff representation out in their professions and the things that we have with WSU.
And I think one of the important things that we need to figure out is what's the deliverables we actually get out of this partnership, right? Because to your point, we can talk to them a whole bunch and they can talk to us a whole bunch. That honestly doesn't matter. It's what did we get out of that partnership?
I think though, and here's where we we've got to take the emotion out of it. Look, WSU is hurting. Pullman is hurting. People are really upset, you guys aren't doing enough together, and so you're both hurting. We also, as a council, need to be able to explain how are we working with them. When people talk to me and they say, well, why aren't you guys doing it? I'm like, do you know about the town gown that we had the last, I don't know, years and years and years before? Do you know about the 2040 that was worked with EO? They were involved with that. ASWSU is about the most involved with working with Pullman as I've ever seen. GPSA, the same. So it's not necessarily we're not coordinating together. It's just the impression. And Megan shares a lot from WSU. Mm-hmm. I think on the other side, in my opinion, what needs to happen is WSU also sharing what's happening with Pullman. That does not happen in large part.
And we can have another discussion on, there's a reason why, and it's a legal issue. Is where it falls with them. If they share about Pullman, then they have to share anything that anybody else brings to them.
But we share.
So, Tawny?
I think I've heard the phrase a million times. It's Moscow is the town with a college, and Pullman is a college with a town. And I don't think we want to drop this off because we have to continue fighting to be a city with a college and not the other way around. And that is going to require a continued partnership, even if it isn't great partnership, even if it doesn't always yield something. We don't want to back further into that college with the city.
Great.
No, and I'm not trying, just to clarify, I'm not trying to say drop it off. I'm trying to create some clarity around the, decades that we've been doing this.
I'm a non-demographic.
Just tap. So on to welcoming. Do we want to keep welcoming in there?
I would wonder, as a member of the welcoming committee, I would wonder, I think we should, I think it's important, but I'm wondering if once some of these events get set up, there can be a template for them. We know what's going to happen. We don't necessarily need an active committee
Right.
to, figuring out new stuff. I'm wondering if that is like a long-term goal, but maybe move it.
It's a committee, so I hear you saying we still need it as a committee, but eventually not need it as a committee.
Well, and
Or just meet quarterly.
I would also like to kind of expand it. It definitely include all of the things that are in there, but I also think it's like people come in and they come from the west side, and the fact that we're a rural town, that's weird to them. Or if someone comes in as a business professional and isn't used to a college town, I think there's more to it than we already, I think the scope could be larger, and just making sure people get here, they understand their neighbors, they feel like they're at home and connected.
So I think for the events, the template can be done and they just be boilerplate, but I think what Brian is saying is 100% correct. I think that we should have a chamber, DPA, council arm that does some of this stuff together that's really welcoming to businesses.
And that's the strategic tourism.
Yeah.
So the welcoming is for our neighbors.
No, I know
The
that.
strategic tourism
Yeah.
is, so what you're describing is actually what the strategic tourism is.
I think it's both. It's like, we want a business to be able to come in, or we want to drive support for businesses, but we also want, if someone moves into town, I don't care if they're a brand-new college student, I don't care if they're a professional that's never lived in a small town, I don't care if there's like, that's someone that's in a marginalized group, whatever it is, I don't care what your background is, I don't care what your history is, I don't care how old you are, I want you to feel like Pullman's an awesome place to live. And that's a people thing. The other one's a business thing, I think. I think we need both.
Yeah.
We have both. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah,
saying.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
saying.
Okay, I
is-
agree
is
with-
we are doing both with those.
Right, but
Well,
what John,
but if you throw in the strategic influence and partnerships piece, between that one and the strategic tourism, that almost, by virtue of those two groups, it incorporates the welcoming piece.
yes, but may I address one part of it, and that would be the neighborhood gatherings, the block and hill parties. I had a gentleman this week approach me and said, hey, can we do a hill party? What does that look like? I'd like to do that. That's where we're talking about, Mayor, that those things are about residents, not about strategic tourism, right?
Correct. That's the welcoming.
So that's the people part.
That's the
So,
welcoming.
I mean, I really want, and some council members have done that in the past, and they are very, so if we could get a template for block
And
parties.
Connie and I
right?
And
the mayor
we're
are
actually
talking about
working
that.
on a
Right.
hill, we're
So,
working
I
on
mean,
hill parties
if
for this year.
we could, so I think that's an important component, because we are the people that are directly available to our residents.
So I'm hearing yes to welcoming, yes also to strategic tourism. So
Yeah.
that's, I'm working, I'm trying to get you through everything, and we still have pages to go. On to the goals, community engagement and communication. I think this is one that's good to continue and to keep the communications and community engagement. Within the visioning, there's the advanced to short-term department planning, there's going to be develop financial strategies, and then there's also program areas to review. Now, so there's 3 different groups within this. As it relates to the visioning piece, the organizational structure facilities program, that's something that's currently ongoing. I'd like to see it continue. And you saw that in
Can I ask a question, though? Is this, to me now, looking at this, where is it administration versus council? because a lot of this sounds administrative to me now. Am I not? Or I guess what is, because I wasn't,
I would like to see this updated in a way where it's written for the community, where they read it and they get the connection to it. I think the
Yes.
departmental piece is just kind of a little bit, I totally agree with everything underneath it.
absolutely.
But like if I'm just a resident in town, I would like to see it written in a way that makes the most sense to them versus like org charty, department goal type stuff. Which I might.
So Sean, do you see the first one more as administrative?
Yeah, I think this ties into, let me think about this for a second. The visioning on this was really about where do you want the staff to focus their efforts on? In the last 2-year goal cycle, there were a lot of projects that came out.
Yeah.
And these kind of was a list of projects that needed to be tackled. What things does staff need to work on? What are the primary projects that the council wants us to think about and work on? And so that sets our work plans.
okay,
And then
okay.
this was a way for staff to kind of prioritize those items so that when the flash in the pan happens, we can come back and say, all right, which one of these do you want us to move away to take care of this thing today? And it was a way for us to kind of have a predictability from the council of what staff was working on. I wasn't part of that goal-setting process, but I'm kind of reading between the lines of how it was crafted. That's what I would imply.
Yeah.
So we need this, we just change maybe what's under the heading.
Possibly.
Yeah, it can be. So if we look at the first part, I think we can redraft with that short-term, long-term planning piece. The next one is develop and implement a financial structures necessary for sustainable funding. I'm already hearing that from council that we want that. And then if we, huh? Yes.
That's the key to
Yeah,
implementing any
I
of
mean,
this.
so I think that's one that keys, and I think this actually gets more pulled out as its own.
It almost seems like this is one where it's like, we need to finish the rest of the goals and then come back and say, okay, like, how do we like boil that down where
Yeah.
it's like, this is stuff that
Yeah.
the staff needs to worry about, or council needs to worry about, or we're gonna say someone else.
it's their guidance, it's one of
Yeah. So,
Yeah, right, I mean, we almost need the list first,
This is
right?
our map. After we finish the list, then this is the map.
okay. Then the last part was program areas to review. Are there any of these, and I'm not going to go one by one, any of these that you want to be included in? I know like the 311 system has already been talked about, so I'm not saying anything that's already been talked about. Is there anything that hasn't been talked about of these that you want to make sure is included in, or some of them are administratively all in process and don't necessarily need to be included in? But I know we've already talked the 311, we've already talked about the recreational sports complex that Pat talked about.
I might suggest too that if it's a thing that we need to look at purchasing, like a 311 system, a recreational sports complex, those really kind of tie into our capital improvement plan, which are already covered. And to say them here would be somewhat repetitive,
Yeah.
only unless you really wanted to focus on that particular item moving up in the CIP, which you have that ability to do so during our CIP-TIP process. What I would see here is more the visioning of what programs do we want to push forward, like zoning areas, maybe, transit services, like you mentioned, maybe direct routes or something like that, something where we can move the programming around. This goal could focus on that.
And we're going to
rather
start,
than
and we're going
projects.
to work through others. So what I hear is, let's go and wait on these as we work,
Maybe wait on
through
those
everything
as you
else.
come back.
And
Nathan?
Sorry.
Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, and sorry, I'm going back to my corporate prior life in terms of goals and objectives and what to do with them. And the goal is that you have this aspiration, you have the objectives that get you to fulfill those goals. So just having said that, but there are a number of these
lunches here.
two-year goals that are, to use Brian's term, duplicative of what some of these long-term priority areas are. And maybe as we're kind of winnowing down some of these things, we can identify which ones go together, and by virtue of that, eliminate some of the overall headers, right?
And that's what Sean and I are going to work on. Right now, just identify what's important to you. Don't try to group together. We don't have time, we don't have enough time to do
You're going to have
that.
to look at these 3 more times, so.
Yeah, yeah.
You got a lot of opportunity.
Nathan?
Thanks. I just want to say, especially with the city department visioning, I know we're trying to say this is what the department should focus on. I trust the departments and the department heads a lot more than us as far as determining what they can and cannot do and the time that they have. And so it makes me uncomfortable telling them this is what you need to focus on. I'm just saying that. I know the rest of the council may not feel the same way, but that doesn't sit right with me. I will say if we're keeping the city department visioning so on, which I feel should be done in-house, not by us,
Okay.
is an evaluation, each department, and I'm all about this SWOT analysis, determining at that department level the strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats of each department, because that can feed into the larger city vision. So,
Okay. So then, moving down, economic development has already been talked about by council members, so we'll keep that there. Staffs, so then staff support. Is this something that you'd like to see continue? I seen head yes.
we need to.
Okay, so I'm hearing support on that. So for that, the boards and commission, I think that's pretty well done and is more in an administrative right now. Sean, would you agree with that? With the board and commission piece?
We can still keep working on that. I'm not sure it needs to be a goal.
I don't think it needs to be a goal, but it's something, Eric?
So I just needed to say something around staff support.
Oh.
And it's gonna eat at me unless I say it. And that includes, cost of living adjustments. I know for some of the staff, they only got a 1% COLA, which if I was in that position is a slap in the face because you're losing money to inflation. So staff support does mean, COLA increases and cost of living adjustments.
Okay, and then wayfinding, the last one.
I mean, that's ongoing, right? I mean,
So is that something we'd like, I would,
just talking about wayfinding.
I would say keep wayfinding in, but I think it can actually roll up in some of the work that's already being done.
Does this seem to be related significantly to the
Yeah.
downtown project?
Well, this was actually all of our entrances
No,
that,
yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, and wayfinding. I mean, this came up, I think, as things we've been told by Watchcomber early on in the project and what they were going to do. I think it just.
we,
Well, civic
this,
improvement
this
has
is
been
stuff
doing
we've
this
been
even
doing
pre-
before that.
No, I understand.
Yeah, okay.
But it,
Well,
Yeah.
and actually, it came up after our strategic marketing
it was after-
stuff with
Oh, that's right.
the
That's where it came out of.
logoing and that kind of thing. So it's been going for a while.
Okay.
I'll take 30 seconds. I know we're running behind. Every entrance to this town is so ugly. What does it take to put trees along like an eighth of a mile out on the one side? On all the entrances.
Okay, well, so we'll keep wayfinding in.
putting
but
that into the
but
air.
part of that is part of that conversation.
15 seconds.
that
It
belongs
makes
with
my husband
welcoming.
crazy that the first Welcome to Pullman sign you see coming south on 195 is from the WSU Wrestling Club.
I hate that. I know.
Okay,
Okay,
It's like WSU welcomes you to Pullman, WSU Wrestling welcomes you to Pullman.
okay, so we're going to take a we finish that, so we're going to take a 15-minute break in order to grab food, and then we'll come back and kind of keep a working lunch going. And next up was going to be for the staff update on the staff goals, and then we'll start working through them when we come back.
I gotta go feed my dog.
Okay, go do that.
And I'm going to stop the recording while this is happening.
Okay, so we're back at it, and the next part of the goals is reviewing the staff proposed goals. And with that, Sean, if you want to just talk through it, and then once he's described, then for council, we'll work our way through this, and then we'll be then on to the community proposed goals.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The staff met November 20th, and this was primarily department heads, our executive leadership team, if you will, so senior department leadership, Deputy Public Works Director, and some of the other ones that get in there, not just department heads. And we kind of put together a list of goals for the last 2-year budget cycle that were proposed back to council in 2024. And we built from that, and we started there this time, kind of went through those, refined them, add, delete, and everything else. A lot of what council or what staff looks at when we're looking at these goals was, what are the projects we're trying to get done? What do we think that the council not necessarily is pushing us to do, but what things that we think the city should also be working and focusing on as well. Some project stuff, some program stuff as well. So we listed all those out, which is what's in that document on the back pages, but we wanted to summarize for the cover of what the goals are that we boiled all those down into and synthesized it to. And so we started with goal 1 was plan and provide for future facilities and equipment needs, including assessments of current resources, growth projections, and technological advancements. And if you dive back into the details on that, you can see that there are a lot of projects kind of related to that goal, which might be some items such as developing a facility master plan, fully funding and developing Veterans Park, developing a transportation master plan, some of those things there. Continue to update city signage, street signage and parking signage, which is, that part of that whole cleanup thing is, entrances and such. So, and then identifying the big ticket projects to be included in the future Parks and Paths bond. So those are some of the projects that are related to our goal 1. Goal 2, support operational needs and their continued evolution through the biennial budget, while also incorporating city council goals and priorities. And so some of our projects that build into that goal talk about familiarizing elected officials with day-to-day operations. So having kind of like job shadowing, if you will, opportunities so that you could say job shadow Hagan or whoever and see what her day is like, or mine, or the Public Works Director, or whoever, things like that. Increasing internal and external training for all employees, building and developing an emergency management team, which we're slowly actually working towards right now.
We actually have an emergency management
We do
team.
have one, yeah. I mean,
So
we're building out how those responses are. And interesting enough, about a month ago, the team brought in about how many, 50 people or so?
Yeah, 45 or 50.
45 or 50 staff to have a flood tabletop exercise. And we were in this room here. Megan, you were kind of heavily involved in part of that, but I was on a ballpark in Palm Springs, I believe. So, but the staff got together, and it was kind of that aha moment. We had people from the library and parks maintenance and public works, and every group of the city was somewhat represented there, and just thinking through all the things. And then what happened last weekend. So it was one of those where I think we were ready for it, and I'll give more details about that on Tuesday during my city administrator's report. So one of the things we put in there was a fleet electrification master plan. If we're going to reduce carbon emission with the fleet itself, we're already doing so with the buses that we purchase, going to all electric buses. We've had some hybrids there. We started kind of filtering in hybrid vehicles for staff fleet But then what does that look like? If we wanted to go to an electrification plan, then we need to have chargers where we need them and the ability for staff to use those and charge up on those and at different locations. So that was part of it. Developing an organizational restructuring plan, and so that was primarily reorganizing the staff so that it made logical sense where we have duplicative staff doing similar tasks. It talks about it, some examples in there is for Public Works, library, and then increasing staffing as needed in the departments where we can. And that kind of goes counterintuitive to what's happening today with budget because we do need the revenues to support that one. Implement an outcomes-based budget model, which is similar to what we're working towards right now with kind of a performance-based or priority-based budget model. But we put that in there and working with the council to see what that model could look like. And then achieving parity with local and peer libraries regarding per capita materials funding. So that kind of tied into the revenue sources as well. Our proposed goal 3 for council would be to increase community engagement, accessibility, and transparency with increased communication to build public trust with staff, elected officials, boards, committees, and commissions. And I heard some of you mention that concept earlier. And so this was develop and maintain a robust emergency communications platform for city residents, implement community engagement plan for council and staff, evaluate the effectiveness of the strategic tourism and marketing plan. So we've got some things that we're going to be bringing forward, like we mentioned with the Chamber of Commerce on that as well. Identify the core partnerships in the greater Pullman community and create a report on goals and priorities for each one, and then implement the 311 system. So a lot of the similar types projects that we mentioned previously today. Our staff's proposed goal 4 would be to implement process improvement methodologies across all city departments to enhance operational efficiency, reduce waste, embrace innovation, improve delivery of services and programs into the community. And so some of our projects on that would be to evaluate the workflows. Travel request process internally is still by paper and using our sneaker network. We do know that there's a city code cleanup that needs to happen. There's a lot of former references to, or there's a lot of current references to former positions that no longer exist, like the Director of Public Safety is an example. 4.3 was establishing an IT governance committee, which coincidentally enough was talking about bringing your own device, the use of AI, digital signatures, some of the stuff that you have already mentioned today as well. We're thinking along the same lines. It's scary. Reassessing the naming of transit service levels and how they're understood by the community. So if you talk about the wheat route or the lentil route, you don't know what that is and where it goes. And so if you're familiar with the Pullman transit system, you would because you've used it and you know that. But those coming into town have expressed, we got to sit there and study what these mean because it doesn't make sense to them. Plus, it always, you know, when you talk about the community level of service or the community plus level of service, what does that mean? Internally, we know because we've used it for years, but the public starts thinking about it like, I'm not sure I don't understand. Increase and improve the overhanging vegetation management program. This is primarily in the residential areas. There's some rules that talk about what is overhanging on the sidewalks and how much the residential or the property owners are responsible for on that. Staff onboarding processes are hit and miss, depends on which department you're in. Some have very good ones, some don't, so that's kind of an internal working thing there for us. Continue to make customer payment methods easy and accessible. That ties into not just paying your water bill, but recreation and all the things that we do have payments for. And this last one is a finance one, unlock the full capability of Munis. Munis is our financial software, and it has a lot of power that we aren't really using because we just implemented it 2 years ago. And so there's a lot of reporting and dashboard tools that we'd like to get into. We just haven't had the chance to really kind of tease those out as we need to.
That are already part of the
Part of the software that are there today, yes. Goal 5, contribute to an overall increase in city revenue through targeted strategies. This is an important one for us, and I think for the city as overall. We've got to take a look at how we our revenue streams. need to be more stable, need to be more reliable, and need to actually pay for the services that we truly desire. So we talked about conducting more frequent rate studies for primarily the public works stuff, along with developer fees that might be a possible revenue stream. The streets fund, storm fund, and general fund revenue streams, we're in the middle of doing some of that right now. But what are the options for revenue? Is that a new tax rate? Real estate excise tax is what REIT is. Service fee increases, just to keep up to pace on what we're seeing with inflationary trends. Additional revenue streams for parks, and we're seeing that right now with some of the reductions that we've had to play into at parks and recreation. New grant opportunities, we're consistently, and we have somebody, Valerie's dedicated to that concept, but really that's all staff, looking to their areas and knowing what's available for their work. And then reviewing existing revenue policies, monitoring legislation to keep council informed of revenue-related opportunities, and we're constantly doing that as well. Our last proposed goal for council from the staff element is to enhance recruitment and retention rates through initiatives aimed at fostering a positive work environment and providing growth opportunities. This is really about employee engagement, employee morale, and it goes into the goal that you already have about supporting staff. We just kind of reworked the language a bit there, talking about specific projects, about employee communications processes, employee motivation and incentive programs, more engagement surveys from the staff as well, investigating additional methods to compensate long-tenured employees, and then better working staff performance review processes. Every department has a little bit of a different thing when it gets to each one of those. So with that was our, oh, that was the rest of them, sorry. Everything's stapled together in one packet here for me. So I was like, wait, that's not mine. With that, I'd be glad to answer any questions anybody has on our proposed goals and then kind of the projects that built into those goals.
Any questions of Sean, and then after that, we can then talk through, are there any of these that we'd like to incorporate in as a part of the goal piece? But this helps give you kind of the vision and direction that where staff is working on and would like to see. So any questions for Sean?
With all the budget stuff we've been working through over the last, whatever, certainly right now, like what are the parts that you would call out here that are like about the like creative cost savings, like the kind of talking to the financial situation that we're in? Like what would you say, there's rate increase ideas and grants and stuff, but what about like, like I almost think about what was the kid's name, Lucas? Yeah. Like the creative, like, hey, how could we do this and not, it's like that kind of like, where would you say that's called out the most?
I think that would come through Goal 5, and we didn't explicitly write that as one of the things, but what does that city revenue mean? So as an example, if we had to cut a program because we didn't have the revenue to support it, how could we come up with the revenue? So it's really, Goal 5 is how do we find those targeted strategies? If it's a community or a group that uses that resource that is willing to pay more, okay, we're willing to listen to that. And as an example to that, we've got a listening session tomorrow about the swim team. And that's an example of how we're trying to communicate with the residents like that. We had to make a decision about it right now in that particular case, but we're willing to open up ideas about that as well. Whether that's through a grant, somebody wants to come in and pay more service fees, there's that. We've heard from council, we don't want to raise fees, and council is truly the one that has the authority to do that. Staff doesn't. So if that's the case, and a group that uses a service wants to raise the fees to continue that service, we'll bring it back to council and say, yeah, this is what the community has asked for. So we're willing to do that.
Monday, not tomorrow.
Monday. I haven't had a weekend in 2 weeks, so.
Yeah. And that's something that, and related to that, that's something staff is working with the community on. For us to engage in the processes would not be good for us at that point in it. in the conversation.
So you asked them not to go?
I'm already committed to go.
It's
Yeah,
5:30.
that I would-
I am planning on going.
So,
I'm okay if the council wants to go to listen, definitely, but to engage during that discussion would be out of bounds. You know, so if you wanted to go to
you know,
listen,
and that, but that also includes engaging before and after of, well, this is what we're going to do, or, I mean, because,
I know the rules we have to.
yeah.
yeah.
So is there a rule against more than 3 of us going, as long as we're not talking and we're not engaging? Or, like, do we need to coordinate which 3 of us are going?
It's from,
Committed to going.
from an optics perspective, it's really better not to have a quorum there.
I would think that the community would actually be ecstatic to see more of us there trying to figure out, I mean, based on the feedback.
But the problem is, if we do not message it to the whole community, we're leaving people out. So it's, and that's how this works. Yes, the individual that you have that contact with appreciates it, but we're excluding those that we did not message that we were going to be there for.
Okay.
So that's, and where you have to be careful with engagement is if people see you, then they're going to come up and start talking, and then that could create a meeting in the midst of it, and that's where the problem is.
It's when you all talk amongst yourselves, that's when it gets to be a problem.
So we have to stop having our late night Friday parties?
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't go there.
So,
When we go to
so,
WC conference. She's joking.
right, and
I'm
that's,
joking.
Okay, I'm
Yeah, if there's less than 3, then we can talk, but if there's more, we probably should.
3 or fewer.
but if you have another event where, with a different council member that you had that conversation with, you've just created the chain. So it's
I
complicated.
caution you.
It's frustrating. Tawny?
I actually think all of these are really important. I'm great with all of these. I'd like to talk about number 3 really quick, and I'd also
Yeah.
like to say, Trevor, your microphone cord is really getting pulled on pretty tight. There's something on it. Sorry, it's driving me crazy. As a person who does sound system stuff, that is driving me crazy. Sorry, and then I just accidentally, sorry.
Okay.
Okay, so number 3, I think
Yeah.
this is something that the city has actually been doing a really good job of, watching all the videos. I think that's amazing. More of that, please. And it talks about increased, like, access to elected officials as well. I would love to get us up and doing some of these videos. I also wonder what this means to the city as far as legality and that sort of stuff about our own social media and that sort of stuff, because like I try to stay very in the public eye, but I also don't want to run afoul of any rules. So I'm just curious in this piece. I think this is great and it needs to happen, and I'm just curious if there's like an outline for us so that we don't do something we shouldn't do.
Noted. I don't have an answer today.
Yeah. So, so I think we're done. Any other questions? If not, then into our discussion piece. Oh, a question, okay.
Sorry, just a couple on these goals.
Sure.
Goal number 1, bicycle and pedestrian plan from 2022. My conversations with the planning and folks who are involved in that, there was a lot of tension on that plan, especially around the planning committee. Are you planning on redoing that plan or just elevating the existing plan that we have?
The intent on that one was to take a look at what was put together in that draft plan and make sure that it still applies, and see if there was an opportunity or an appetite, if you would, to move that forward. Staff put a lot of time, effort in working to create that, and it never got to the point of formal adoption. And I wasn't around at that point, so I don't know some of the history there. But a lot of that was, is it still good? Is it still kind of relate back into the complete streets policies? And then see if there's an appetite for council to formally adopt that as an active plan.
Yeah, there were some people that drew lines in the sand, and when that happens, you're not coming up with a creative, collaborative solution. And it was, and I wasn't involved in it at that time, but
Those same people are on the planning committee though, right? In 2022.
no, this is the bicycle and pedestrian plan.
Yeah, but that one
But it wasn't the planning committee that was where all the issues were. There were,
I would really, I think, multimodal transport, bicycle, pedestrian plan, I definitely support that. Goal number 2 around the emergency management team, also there's a whole bunch of great work being done already. What does that look in terms of coordination with the
Do we have a countywide emergency management team as well? There's, in fact, there's a county emergency management plan that I just had open yesterday that talks about that with Whitman County, the port, WSU is part of that, as well as, there's the document there, as I pull it up.
and that's Bill Tensfeld, I believe, is.
Correct.
Is that at the, that's the county, whereas Ryan is the city.
And Ryan Scharnhorst,
Ryan
Fire
Scharnhorst.
Chief, is our emergency management coordinator for the city, and plays into that role with, WSU and Whitman County. It's, the one that we have there with them is, it's a basic plan, emergency support functions, and specific annexes that play into that too. So, yeah, there is a bigger picture there as well.
Great, and I know part of that picture, we have 2 board members on the Red Cross of the Inland Northwest, both myself and Nathan, and Red Cross really looks to the city for the leadership, but they're ready to jump in where when needed.
Okay.
And then, goal 4, process improvement. I love process improvement frameworks. Are we thinking, I know the city used Six Sigma a couple of years back, especially around the library. What kind of specific process improvement methodologies are you exploring?
We didn't get down to that level of detail. It would somewhat depend on what are we trying to improve, and how big does it need to be. You can use some modified form of that. Maybe it's a simple Kanban type of thing for a small work group. But a lot of this was going to be evaluating some of those workflows within each group, sometimes citywide groups as well. It just depended on where it was, but it was really trying to look at it. Are there ways that we could enhance operational efficiencies overall? And some of that best ideas, as you know, come from the staff levels directly. So somebody doing the work at the closest to the work understands, why am I doing this? Or they understand something's asked to be done and I don't know why, so why are we doing it?
Ask why 5 times.
Yep.
Six Sigma, lean manufacturing, I'm all in support of that.
So, go ahead.
Sorry,
No, you're fine. No, I thought you'd paused and you had paused, you hadn't stopped.
Goal number 4, I know that we're doing a lot of the financial reporting. The public, at least with the comments, have talked about wanting kind of a dashboard, a visual dashboard, and I'm not sure how that can be incorporated with just communicating just the budget numbers, where the money's at. I don't know if Munis has that possibility, or what information you want to communicate to our constituents. But I think some type of public dashboard with budget information on it would be great.
And that's project number 4.8 is the full capability of Munis would be that very exact thing.
Great, yeah, and that's why I hope is there public facing something. I hope, yeah, that'd be great.
So now that we're done, with any other questions?
Just a quick one.
This is questions, not,
No,
okay, yeah, go ahead.
But it's a question in regard to
Yeah.
one of these goals, is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought we already had a community-wide emergency notification system.
We do. Everbridge is the name of that, and it does exist, and we are partners with WSU in that, and it is available for us to use when we have large-scale community events that mostly affect life and issues like that that are surprising events.
So when we're saying develop and maintain a robust emergency communications platform, is that enhancing the existing system, or what exactly does that mean?
There's been a desire from the emergency management teams to move away from the Everbridge software specifically. So that's why develop and maintain one. My understanding is the Everbridge one isn't necessarily as easy to use, and the ability to target specific areas is there, but it's not super user-friendly on our end. Plus, it is, as any of them would be, voluntary, so you have to sign up to get those alerts. and it doesn't necessarily push an alert out to everybody. It's only those that have signed up for it.
Which would be true of a place.
Possibly, yeah. We've been looking at some models that might tie into other data that we have, such as utility billing. Maybe there's not a big water issue, and we need to broadcast it to all of our water users. The boil water notice might be an example to that, where we could push it out to that.
Thank you.
Okay. So if no other questions, then as you're looking at these, are there any of these that you'd like to see included in our 2-year goals? Obviously, this is a robust list that the staff is working on, but are there any that we want to specifically highlight or include, or it may be the goal itself, or it may be a specific project that you'd like to pull, that you'd like to make sure that we reference in some way? Tawny?
I'm hard pressed not to say that these aren't all the most important, but I think one of the best ways we can support staff is through facilities management, finding the money to get better facilities. I know police, I know fire, I know.
Can you reference a specific one here?
This would be goal number 1.
Okay, thank you.
And this is, thank you, 1.4, this facilities master plan, to look at where in the CIP we could be moving forward in supporting staff through the sort of structures that they need to meet the coming future. I think that that would be an important thing to put out there.
Okay. Nathan?
Along those same lines, the transportation master plan, I think that's extremely important, bicycle master plan, and especially now with our recent discussion about the scooters. So I know that's very
Okay.
relevant.
Okay. Ann, did you have one? Okay.
Great mind.
See the bike path and trails, because we hear that a lot from our residents, that they really, really would like us to keep those growing and improving.
Tawny?
I'm just trying to move on to future or to other goal items. Goal number, oh, I just had it. I am so sorry. Oh, the fleet electrification master plan. I think that's a good idea.
Which goal?
That's 2.4.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
I couldn't find it either. I'm just trying to move on to the next.
Okay. Oh, I see what you're saying.
I think, sorry.
I think that's a really good idea.
Okay.
Things are going to be changing quick, and we should try and stay ahead of that.
So actually, I like where you're going with that. So if we look at goal number 1, are there any other items? We've talked about the facilities master plan. We've talked about the transportation, the bicycle pedestrian plan. Anything else in there that you would like to make sure is called out as part of our goals? Nathan?
I think the Veterans Park, even though it's getting a lot of, I think it's still important to keep putting that forward.
Yeah, and I'll talk with staff to see if that's, how close we are, whether we
Yeah.
include it or not.
At every chance-
It actually makes sense to be in. So Sean, sorry.
At every chance
Tawny.
I can, I want to make sure that we don't drop talking about the freight route. I just don't want to drop that. Even if it's not something that we have as a committee or whatever, I just don't want to,
The freight, yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, I had my mic off.
On to goal 2. Anything, now we've talked about the fleet electrification master plan. Are there any of these? The organizational restructure plan, I feel, is something that it's critical as we're looking at redundancies. It's also looking at direct reports. If you think about over half of our employees are under one director. And so you start thinking about just that load that happens as a result.
I like the way that you phrased that. Like, if I was reading this and I hadn't watched city council meetings for 6 months, I would be like, man, there's a lot of awesome ideas, but I wouldn't read at all, wow, we must have a tight budget, because there's lots of really cool ideas that are expensive.
Yeah.
I love the idea of calling out things that maybe can make us more efficient. So like if we did incorporate it, I would love to capture the efficiency gain as part of it.
2.6, implement an outcomes-based budget model.
Okay.
Is that the same as just priority? That's priority-based budget?
Sean, you want to talk about?
They're slightly different.
Okay.
Priority base is what the community views or what the council views as a priority, and then that kind of rises to the top of how we fund it. The outcomes-based budget model is really looking at, I want this thing to be right, I want it to be successful, so how do we budget to make it that way? They're really, really closely similarly linked. Staff was pushing more of this model than the priority-based, because priority just kind of has a different connotation rather than the outcome. So,
What if we were, Eric, what if we were to actually have a little bit deeper dive into
Yeah.
the two, it just, because we need to be able to,
Because, yeah,
the nuance
business
and
as-
communication.
Yeah, business as usual for this budget isn't going to work. So, we've talked
Correct.
about how we're rethinking the budget, outcomes-based, priority-based. Just communicating that to the public so they know which one we're going forward with would be tremendously helpful. Sure.
I would love to look at 2.3. I think with fires and floods and things like that, going to be more prominent in the future. And especially after some of the things I saw online this last week, I think we want to be ready.
And I wanted to be careful in this one where it says build, it's actually, expand, it's not build, it exists already, it's
Sustain.
it's improving upon.
Expand.
I would love to see that incorporate kind of going back to that public partnership, the tighter partnership with making sure the university, the downtown, the other major employers, the school, like, how do we make sure some of that incorporates cross-team planning and practicing?
related to emergency?
Yeah.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
If I may. And a question, Sean or Francis. In that emergency planning, do they look at future projections, especially given, what is going on? The floods and the windstorms and those. Are there scenarios, future projected scenarios?
Not at this time.
Is there any way we could look into how we might be able to incorporate that? I know NOAA has some. I know NASA has had some. I've dealt with that, and so I think it would be very important.
Okay.
Well, I know-
So those FEMA flood maps.
Yeah, and I know one of the things that we're doing is we have the FEMA flood map that says this is what should flood.
Yeah.
But we're collecting as many flood pictures as we can and overlay them to look at, this is what FEMA said should have flooded, but this is what actually happened. So, and because we want to compare the two and figure, and if there's differences, figure out why is there differences.
Yeah.
If y'all have some, send them to me.
I know that we're identifying what we think is the most important. Can I ask you how important the staff felt 2.1 was? Is that something, none of us have identified that as a top priority, but would that make staff feel better? If we were,
We don't need to have you follow us around, no. No, actually, we thought that was actually pretty good, in the sense that we always want to be able to educate you, 7 or 8, even the mayor, on the business, the day-to-day that we do, so that you're more educated, you go out into the community talking to constituents, and then you can better educate them. How many times has one of you have written me or a director and said, how do we do this? What's the process, or why do we do it that way? Or why are we spending money on signals and stopping intersections? And how did we get to that plan? And so if you understand how the city operates better on a day-to-day basis, it's going to help your knowledge bank and how you explain things to the community. So we thought that this was important enough to put it on the paper. And I think that kind of tells you where we thought. There were a lot of stuff that didn't get on the paper, I'll tell you right now. We were just down there like, nope, nope, nope. But we built this to focus the council on what staff thinks would be a good idea.
Yeah.
And I hadn't spoken yet, but I was actually going to say I like 2.1, and I like the integration, the interaction between staff and council on a more informal or just relaxed basis, not at meetings or in other situations. So I support that too, because you're right, it just empowers us more to be able to communicate to our residents
Yeah,
and
we-
to, especially to negate if they're putting something out there that, or if they ask you something or assume something, when we know, we can say it
Yeah.
one-on-one.
We want you to be informed, and at the same time, we don't want you to feel you can't talk to staff. This is, and this is this
Right.
piece is, how do we help? Because you can gather information, you just can't direct. And so,
Right.
what we want to do is, how do we create opportunities so that you can get the information you need, as opposed to feeling like I can't talk to staff?
Right, right.
Nathan?
If there's any way with the 2.1, if departments could identify ways for us to either take a tour of the wastewater, or, I mean, I know the police are always welcome to ride-alongs. In the past, we don't have the funding, I know, but Hammer facility was open for fire, and that was a really great way to, but it's done through the union, so that's, I don't know how that works.
Yeah, but you can do ride-alongs with the fire department,
Well, see,
just like you can do ride-alongs with the police department.
I think
Yeah.
being able to identify by department, say, hey, look, you can do this ride-along, or the tour,
Yeah.
or these sorts
Yeah.
of things, because right now, it's just kind of like, you can shadow, what can we shadow, being able to.
What are the opportunities?
What-
You need to
what-
know what is
yeah.
available.
Monday
And
morning,
what
8
we
o'clock,
wanted-
I'm in your office.
Come on.
And we want to create this for all of the departments, so it's not just emergency services, but for transit, or for, I mean, wastewater treatment, plant.
And parks, 8 AM Monday the 23rd.
Okay, on to goal number 3. Are there any items from goal 3 that you would specifically like to call out?
3.1.
I mean, yeah, given what we're talking about, 3.1.
Okay,
The thing I want to be careful about with that is just making sure that we're still leveraging what we have in the community, right? Like Everbridge is one of the most reputable platforms for emergency response. Is the challenge actually just struggle of working with WSU, or is it like that we don't have enough integrations or whatever? It's like, just, yeah, we want our emergency communications to be awesome, but I don't know that we're in a spot where it's like, we're laying people off. Like, do we really want to buy a new platform to replace a premium platform to start with?
That would be part of the analysis. Is there opportunity with the current systems to, maybe it's just an education thing, unlocking some features? I don't know. I've never seen it or used it other than the recipient of test messages. But, yeah, so that would be part of the process too. And whether that, we keep the same one, or we purchase a new one, or maybe that's what comes forward as capital purchase, that's to be determined.
so I'll make a note and put that as review. And if you remember where we had, with the other goals, we had goals that were, this is what we wanted to do, but we also had program areas to review.
Yeah, I would
So
love
this
for
would be
the
a
goal to
review
be
piece.
that we have awesome emergency communications and make it less about the software and more about,
Yeah.
maybe that's a limiting factor, maybe it's not. Either way, the end goal is we want awesome emergency communication.
Well, and
Anything
that-
else with 3?
I was just going to say
3.3.
3.5, but that's been talked about at several different
It's already-
places,
right,
so I don't
So what I'm
know.
saying is, if something's already been talked about, don't bring it up again. We don't have time.
3.3.
What's that?
I want to emphasize 3.3. It's good.
Okay.
Are we still, I know a while ago we were looking at an app, a Pullman app, but I don't know that that's something, I mean,
That's part of, I think you're maybe thinking about the 311 system.
no, this was something that was completely different. Maybe it was before Megan was on, but this was many, many years ago. There was a question about us creating our own Pullman type of app.
That would do what?
That would be a quick link to pretty much the same stuff as a website, but, I mean, a lot of things are just moving to apps, have moved to apps. So that was something that I think I had asked Jenny. Anyways, I had asked previously, and it was being looked at, and then never heard anything about it. But this was before you, this was
I think during Glenn's time.
I'm not familiar.
I don't think you were on
311
council.
can incorporate a lot of that,
Yeah.
that stuff.
Direct link for services.
No,
On to goal 3.
again, an unknown demographic here.
Just go like this, Pat.
You know how many bruises I have on my shins?
3.2, I know that WSU and the Chamber through the Visitors Bureau are working on just exactly this type of a plan where all of the community information and services are included. And so my point here being that we incorporate that in this implementation, rather than totally reinventing the wheel. If we've got WSU through Haley James is working on one piece, and then this Pullman through Visit Pullman is working on another piece, let's try to figure out how we can merge all of that information so that our residents have one place to go and
That's
get it all.
Yeah, we need that one-stop shop.
Yep.
And so rather than having three
Yeah,
separate
it-
entities, how do we pull it all together?
We should feel even more like proud of the accomplishment if we can make one of those incredibly successful instead of add a third
Right.
that's trying to be successful.
Pullman app. A Pullman
One thing to notice, and that might be something to talk about integrating with Visit Pullman. Visit Pullman is technically ours via the chamber with our tourism contract.
Right.
And so there is a certain amount of community information and stuff that does go there. I do provide dates for city council meetings and things like that to them, so they also go out in the Pullman community update and those pieces. But I do agree that trying to get everybody, and I'm happy to help work on the marketing of this, and I've been talking to JJ, and, you know, and we're talking about how we can kind of make that more robust, but trying to get more of the bigger events in that place, especially the events that are for the community, that are not just our, you know, where we have our meetings. It makes sense for us to have all those notifications, well, they have to be legally, I think, on our website. But when it comes to the rest of that, I do think, you know, talking about promoting Visit Pullman more is an awesome idea, and potentially seeing how it can be appified. Oh, I hate myself for using that word, but
Okay.
like, yeah,
Right,
what could
so
happen there,
Just to
yeah.
finish on that one, then the other piece of that is to how to educate our users to go there. I mean, part of the problem is, you know, you tell people, but, well, I didn't know we had anything like that. And it's like, how do we get that to be more?
Do we have a link or an icon on our website for Visit Pullman?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I have it, thank you.
Okay, goal number 4. Any items from there?
I have two.
Connie?
4.7 and 4.8, I think, are both important.
Okay. Any others?
4.5, I think that, I know we're short on funding and everything, but when we get windstorms, I mean, that's a hazardous debris that's going around, and we're going to get worse, so taking care of those is really important.
Okay. On to goal 5 then. Anything from goal 5? 5.4. The grant opportunities?
Yes, absolutely.
5.3.
Is that kind of tied into a lobbyist or just specifically about grants?
That was specifically with grants.
Okay.
And a lot of those grants are very explicit on what they pay for and can do, and, you know, it's, you want to paint a sign a certain color, there's a grant for that, but not the other color.
Yeah.
You know, so
I think
they can get very explicit.
We already have what are our overall funding strategy, of which this would actually fall as part of that funding strategy that we've already talked about earlier.
So what you're suggesting is maybe we don't need to worry about this page?
No, we can, no, we still identify, but what are specific ones that we're hearing you want to emphasize as we work through these.
5.5 as well.
So
Okay.
with 5.4, let me ask, our identified revenue streams are really focused on fees and taxes, isn't that correct?
Say that one more time.
But this is grant opportunities.
No, I
not
know,
rev-
what I'm
yeah.
asking
Oh,
a follow-up.
Okay.
Yeah,
Are identified strategies, funding strategies for the city are fees and taxes, correct?
It has to be. Yes, absolutely.
Is there any way to put, like, and this has been asked also of me, grants as high, if not higher, as a priority, right along with? So it's not, I mean, grants are almost like, okay, we'll get a grant, but aggressive grant funding. I'm not sure, is our grant part-time? Are they
Full-time.
part-time? They're full-time.
It's full-time.
But I really think there's only so much fees and taxes. Having that as a major priority of aggressive grant funding, I mean, I think is really important for us.
Could we, oh, go ahead.
Sorry. The caveat with that, though, is that grants cost money. And so we have to be careful in that arena that we don't start incurring more costs through grant administration, than we're able to get as a source of revenue. So that's the hidden part of the, the grant games.
I want to caution council that grants are not the silver bullet.
Yeah.
It's a part of the entire revenue package.
Right.
Yeah.
It has to be. Grants are not guaranteed. And the grant, the climate out there might be that we don't have federal funding, we don't have state funding coming in a grant opportunity. So there is still a reliance on permit fees, taxes, property taxes, sales taxes primarily. Those are the two revenue sources that the city has.
Yeah.
I know, I just feel like trying to emphasize to the community that we are going forward with grants more aggressively. That's really important.
We're trying to identify it, but at the same time, we also understand they also have strings attached. And we have some, so we have some properties that we would like to change how they're used. We cannot because of the string that's attached to the grant. And that grant is something that we received 30, 40 years ago. And we're stuck with, we can only use the property this way, even though that's not the most efficient, the best way for us.
Eric.
Eric?
I might be preaching to the choir here, but it's around the same conversation. Along with grants, we shouldn't be pursuing or using one-time grant funding for ongoing
No.
expenses.
Correct.
It's soft money.
Yeah, I
No.
think that is just something to keep in mind. I'm sorry if we all knew that, but I think that's
And-
extremely important.
We moved on before I could say, but I agree with anything that, like 4.1 and 5.1, where we're evaluating the workflows and rate studies to try to make things more, increasing revenues and make things more efficient. I support that, both of those.
Under the identifying new grant opportunities, are there other ways that cities can increase revenue? I don't know all these different things, but I know I was talking to somebody about like the tax increment financing and that sort of stuff. Are there like bullet points under this that are other ways that we could look at? That doesn't increase revenues so much,
Yeah.
but it does reassign
And-
revenues.
And we have Jeff come to council and give updates on, this is what the options are. So that is something that is continually be done.
And don't think that just because staff didn't list it as a project, the overall goal, if you roll up right there to goal 5, contribute to an overall increase in city revenue through targeted strategies.
Yes.
And that's a bunch of different targeted there. If you want to add
Okay.
a targeted strategy of something different.
Yeah, like I
Please
would
do.
love to see, I mentioned earlier, right? Sales tax, construction tax are meaningfully going to improve that money that we actually have to spend.
So you're proposing an increase in those? Or-
Not the
No,
rate,
he
but
wants
the
business-
volume.
He wants.
Yeah,
volume.
100% on the volume, 0% on the rate. For me.
Yeah. Goal number 6, items on goal number 6.
I just have a question, and it's in regard to 6.3. Oftentimes, when some things get included in an exercise like this, it's because there is a problem or a problem has been identified. Is that the case here? Do we have a high turnover rate, or is there something else pinpointing that we conduct employee engagement surveys or employee satisfaction surveys, if you will?
A lot of that is, doing them on a regular basis gives us a standard of where we're at and maybe where things might be changing or pivoting in certain areas. If you have a work group that is starting to go a little sideways, that might come out in an annual survey like that, but we can gauge then kind of the health of the staff in that case, and the morale to a certain degree. And it's just gauging it, keeping so we can say, all right, some of those Gallup polls that I've seen, it's an odd question. Do you have a best friend at work? And it's a weird question to ask, but it really is kind of ties into, do you have somebody you can confide in at work? And if you start seeing those numbers start go down, then maybe there's an issue with our employee wellness program or employee engagement programs or something like that, staff fun events or something. And that's just a simple example, but it gauges kind of the health of, maybe there's a thing that's going on, maybe management isn't communicating well to staff, and that might come out over time if you get certain transitions of staff. Is there high turnover? I don't think so. We've got a lot of long tenured staff here. If you look at some of our longer tenured one, we've got a code enforcement officer that everybody knows and loves that's been here for over 44 years. He doesn't want to turn over, I guess. But we have a lot of, speaking of police, we have a lot of police officers like that. Our maintenance superintendent's been here over 30 years. And so there's a lot of long tenured staff that it's like once they get here, they are here. And because Pullman's a special place. Or we want to.
Yeah, yeah. I asked HR in the midst of some of the controversy last year, and I asked him that specific question. She goes, no, we're actually better than most other cities as it relates to the longevity of our staff.
Yeah.
Now, what Sean's talking about is, and you had some comments in the community comments where they referenced a specific department or a specific area. That's what we're trying to pick up in the midst of this. Are there certain areas that we need to do a dive into because there may be something that's specifically area related that's helpful for us to know.
Right.
So are we doing employee engagement surveys now?
Not regularly. They're mostly targeted, we want to do one this year? Yeah, sure. And so this would be kind of more of a goal to make it a more routine thing so that we can get some baseline data and standardize how we're looking at things.
We did do one last year, so we could be set up to do one 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ann?
I would just say I support everything under Goal 6, and just that goal at the beginning, the heading of the goal, I think is,
Nathan?
I support it.
So do we currently know our retention rate at the city?
I don't know it today, but
Okay.
I'm sure.
HR does, yes.
Yeah.
I think it'd be good for us to understand that and kind of keep track of that because, I mean, we've seen quite a few people kind of get turned over in recent years. And I will say, and this is for us as city council, it goes a long way when we're talking to department heads and staff and things like that to express appreciation for what they do, because oftentimes when they come in front of us, they hear some of the worst stuff, or they just hear complaints from us, which can get kind of frustrating. So I just want to let people know here, we have to also be appreciative of what they do, because that affects.
Tony?
I just have a clarifying question. Under 6.2, it says, create opportunities that do not create a gift of public funds issue. I don't understand what you mean by that in this context. I understand what that means, but in this context.
Sure, so we can't give staff a bonus, as an example. We don't have the ability as a public entity to say, hey, you did a great job, you're going to get $500 this month extra. Whereas in the private entities, they can. And so what other avenues do we have as an agency, as a public agency, to get staff? Is there another way to provide them incentives or motivation in that sense? So what opportunities?
Like an
could-
appreciation barbecue or something like
Like in a
that.
barbecue or something to that effect. And we do some of those things now, where we have to be cautious of not spending the public's money to purely benefit a staff member like that.
And also, that money comes out when we do something like Munch Madness, and we put a little bit of budget towards that, or a barbecue. That money actually comes out of a specific fund. That's a wellness, specific money that is allowed, we're allowed to use that on staff appreciation things, where we couldn't just be like, oh, we're going to give transit a pizza party today. Like, we can't just do that unless it comes out of that very specific money that is designated for that very specific thing.
And one of the things that was mentioned in that one as well is, say, and this is just an example, a shared sick leave program. We don't currently have one like that. And that's been one of my targeted points on this one was, how can we do that? Because that then creates a camaraderie of, hey, somebody is ill or has a family issue or something, they need to take extra time off they don't have. But as a community of staff, we can help support that one individual in that situation. And I think that's a good way to say, you know what, that makes this a good place to work. I want to work here. That creates our retention levels. It keeps us here as staff. Megan just highlighted in the State of the City address, one of the things that we put on there was a 10.1 years average full-time length of service, which is a long time.
Right, so that's the average.
So thank you for pointing out what the mayor said.
Do we have an employee of the month type of program or something?
We do in certain,
Just me every month.
I knew it.
she's got this crown and won't let it go.
Well deserved.
Certain departments do, not everyone does. Transit does have like an employee of the month or employee of the year event, but, program, but not every department, not every one in the city does.
It might
But
mean
you
a lot
don't-
coming from the mayor.
Does the council need to council the month so you can have your own parking spot?
No, it may mean a lot coming from the mayor or something like that.
It definitely seems like the departments at the city should definitely have ways to make sure that their people feel appreciated and celebrate good work and all of that. I'm not sure that means that needs to be part of our 2-year annual goal as council. Like, I would definitely say, please try to make the place as amazing as possible, but and don't think us not putting it, if we don't put it in there, it's not like, haha, make it terrible to work there, right? Like, do that.
Right.
It's just not, it's
Right,
like,
and you're seeing the difference. See, Sean's giving, this is where they're trying to get to. Now, some of it are going to be in our goals, some of it isn't.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Any last words on this? Okay, we are on to the community ones. And so, Sean and Megan, I'll let you, and we'll look first at this, where they condensed it down, and we're going to work through that, and then we're going to work through all of them, and we have 42 minutes left. So we need to work, so.
We'll go fast.
So, do you need to give us any updates, or have us just talk about this?
No, let me just summarize how we developed what we did, and we'll let you go to work. What we did is we put out an online survey that solicited the community's feedback in goals. You all had then an open public meeting, or an open public house at the library, where the public came and talked to you about it, and anything that they wrote, we included in this as well. We also took during that period of time that we were soliciting goals, anything that was emailed to city council members that you all saw were also included in this. We took all of those comments, and I emailed you I call it kind of the war room marker board, where we literally went through every comment line by line and analyzed what the comment was saying. Was it one person that made the same comment 6 times? Then they got 1 mark. If we had multiple people with the same comment, we got multiple marks. And so we were able to then synthesize that down into where those comments were kind of evolving. And staff, Megan and Valerie, and me to a certain extent, got involved in how do we give you something that isn't just 140 comments and you're now floundering in how do I look at this? So we were trying to give council an opportunity there and a head start by kind of boiling them down into, how many did we come up with, 6? Overall goal themes that you could break them down, because every one of those was random in how they said it, but they all kind of fit into a bucket when we started looking at it. And we went through several iterations of what bucket. And so whether it was, to take a hot topic, we want ice in town, we don't want ice in town. Okay, that's all one bucket related to ice.
Right.
And so we were trying to do that, and so we brought them into the goal themes that you see here. The first set of bullets under that were kind of what might be projects, if you will, in a similar type of theme, what the concerns were that we were reading out of those comments, and then some of the sample quotes from those. We gave the public and you all of the comments so you could see how they evolved into what we gave you there. And I'll let Megan kind of take over from here.
Oh, geez. Yeah, so we
Sure,
did.
very
all of
quickly, very
that.
quickly.
Go, you, yeah, very quickly. So the first, we didn't put these, the order that they're in is alphabetical based on kind of that high-level topic. So it's not based on the number of comments or an arbitrary whatever, that's what it's based on. Community spaces, invest in community amenities and spaces, including library, parks, recreation, and trails. And that includes things like evaluating and exploring recreation and entertainment opportunities, improving visibility of and programming at civic assets such as the public library, evaluate Pullman Recreation Center and other facilities for efficient use, co-location, or revenue-generating leases, and expand culture events and tourism activities.
And in context of
attractions.
time, I'm going to stop you here, and we're just going to start working through these.
Okay.
I'm trying to manage time right now, because council's had a chance to review these already. So under the community spaces, and so we'll talk through these synopsis, and then we're actually going to go, and page by page, I'm going to say, page 1, is there anything you want included? Page 2, page 3. So that's, I need to get through 112 pages. But because I want to make sure the communities, we have addressed each page. So is there anything related to the community spaces that we have not already talked about or included in? There would be something else that is like, yes, this is something that would be good for us to make sure is included as a part of, as we're talking goals.
I don't see these as specific enough to.
I see Tawny.
Sorry.
So only if you have something.
So it says we should put a playground downtown, and we've already talked about that, but something that relates to downtown is sometimes I think that we should have police officers not ticket, but just help people understand that they shouldn't be speeding, especially through that last block, because if we want it to be family-friendly, we do need to decrease how fast people blow through that block. Moscow does that. They have patrols right at the beginning of every school year where they're just like, they don't ticket you, they're just like, hey, this is a 25 and it's pedestrian-friendly.
Yeah. Well, and I think we only ticket 10% of the time that we actually stop somebody.
Right, yeah, no,
So-
yeah, there's just a
So we
raising an
spend-
awareness
we
campaign.
We spend more time awareness. Okay? Anything else from this community spaces one? And
I
we'll,
would say improve visibility of programming and civic assets. We have the communication, I think we're doing a good job, but I know many people do ask. I don't
Okay.
know how much more visible. So,
Great.
Okay, great.
any,
I was like, can we leverage the coast plan to kind of type into one? That was a very comprehensive plan that I'm probably still making my way through, but I would hate to see that.
which?
Pros planes,
Oh,
Open spaces.
yeah, okay.
Okay. Okay, on to the economy. This was stabilize and revitalize Pullman's community. Any of those items that we have not already touched on that would also be good to include in?
Pretty comprehensive.
Yeah, we covered that pretty
Yeah.
heavily.
The art space is the one that, actually, it's not in this list, it's later on. But the art space is one that I had down. Okay. Because a lot of these, that's where we've already talked a lot about these. On to the next one, which is emergency services. Anything related to that we have not already said, hey, we want to include this in? I did like the yeah, sorry, I'm jumping ahead. I'm jumping ahead to an item.
Are these like just increased funding? The fire and police are the most funded departments in our, in the city. I would say just from my protecting frontline staff, I think that might sum up a lot of the concerns here.
I do wonder, I don't think it has to hit a goal, but wonder if there's other creative ways to support funding for fire and police independent of the way that we do it today. But again, not as a goal.
Because they're represented entities, so there are limitations there. They're union represented. So we have to.
Well, I mean, like if you wanted to do like a
So like,
regional.
so like ambulance service, cost for ambulance, I mean, is an example. Okay, what about under the governance side? Because a lot of these we've already talked about, but it's just,
It's like we went to that open house.
well, it's like we were there, so, right, so, and that's,
Funny how you heard these.
I will say with the governance, I don't see it here. Comment I did hear a number of times was the amount of time we take on meetings, that was a big one. How do we streamline it? Because there's a lot of people now watching, and they're like, these are 3.5 hours, or 3 hours. And so streamlining the process in some way, and that would be under governance.
yeah.
More meetings, less time.
Have more meetings, less time, or
Well,
reduce how many people can talk on an item.
Or are there other ways to like feed that information out, right? Like I love the pre-ad for it. I almost wonder, is there an argument for, Tawny already does a great job, but like maybe there's a post wrap-up. It's like, hey, if you want to watch it, it's here, here's the hit.
We've done post wrap-ups of different times.
Yeah, I don't think recently, right?
It's been a little while.
It's, but I can bring it's easy to, it'd be easier for me to
Yeah,
bring them
so-
back.
some way to make it more consumable.
What we had before is the reason why we stopped doing the post wrap-up is when we watched the numbers, we got maybe 20 people that watched.
Yeah.
I mean, it was more people were watching the meeting that were going online and watching the whole thing than watching the wrap-up. And so it might have been just how we were communicating out the wrap-up.
And that's the challenge, the ever-present challenge here is which communication channels do we use? Because we're not a Spokane, we don't have a KHQ, or we have all these smaller entities. Some people are online, some are at the paper, some listen to the radio.
Yep.
So that's a challenge for our staff, I think, chronic challenge.
Okay, on to infrastructure then.
Didn't we just expand sidewalks?
I saw that, I thought that too.
It's like, wait, what?
They mean more sidewalks, more places, right?
No, they were saying they wanted wider sidewalks downtown.
Wider than the current ones?
They,
Yeah, that's what I mean, it's like, wait,
that was the
what?
Those are already
statement. Now,
way
they might have been,
wider than-
they might have been thinking Grand Avenue, or, I mean, it's,
Yeah.
The intent that we put into this was not just to expand their width, it was to expand the areas that they might be. So
Yeah, yeah.
sidewalks in different areas, not
And we
just
talked
expanding
bike
their
lanes
widths.
a couple of times and, right,
And usually it's connections.
Connections. We do have a program, like, just as a small example, in the Streets Fund that fills in gap areas where we've
Yeah,
got
in-
sidewalks,
yeah.
then it's
Yeah.
gravel, then it's sidewalk.
Absolutely.
And so we're trying to do that.
but that's on our list already, right? That
Yeah.
general thing.
and then next one, the housing one, and we've already,
Oh, I have something on, sorry, infrastructure.
Oh,
We still have
please.
that, cost of service, comprehensive cost of service study coming up.
For utilities and transportation, yes, so that is happening. Stormwater just got their cost of service rolling. Water and sewer will follow, and then transit is also looking at a comprehensive one as well, so, yeah.
Okay. Housing?
Yes.
Yes.
I think it's important for us to look at rent control and rent stabilization, and I don't know how that works and what a city's role could be in it, but we've got higher vacancy rates and still very, very high rent, and we hear this a lot, I've heard it a lot, people struggling with rent.
Isn't
specifically.
there already rent control measures coming down from the state legislature in Washington, I thought?
You know, I
It
don't
did?
know, but I don't know if there's something, right, so if there is, we don't want to replicate, but I'm not aware. I was just wondering if the city,
Because I just heard Nathan say it died, but then Fajarin said it passed, so.
There was a study just came out for the state of Washington. Well, it was actually a nationwide study where they identified where was the least expensive place to live in each state, but then for populations above 30,000, they then called out within the state. Moses Lake had the cheapest rent for Washington State, and if you looked at the slider scale where like Moses Lake was here up to where the end was, we were like right here. We were under $100 within the cheapest place in the state of Washington. So from the rent side,
Yeah.
if you look at it,
Right.
our rent is very cheap compared to everywhere
Correct,
else.
but if
Now, whether or
somebody
not
doesn't
it's
have the choice-
whether or not it's affordable, that's another story.
that's what I'm talking about, and it doesn't,
From a stateside level, there is a rent control. There is a rent increase caps at 7% annually is what it looks like.
Just reading what, yeah, 10%, yeah.
10% and then 7.
So the
Yeah.
legislature-
So there is something already.
Legislature's doing it.
enforced at a city level?
It's just coming in, well, we're going to find out.
We're going to find out.
That's what I'm saying, I just
Because this
wanna
went into
make sure
effect
we're-
back in May of 2025, and it's
Yeah.
the 12-month period
Yeah,
after.
that is one thing I'd
So I
love
don't
to
know.
see on the long-term rentals is like a way to be able to, like, how to escalate if you have a problem and you feel like there's something where it's like, I don't think the landlord's being fair, or this place should, like, I don't know how it would pass an inspection, something like that where someone actually knows what to do if they feel like something that's probably already against the law is happening.
But, yeah,
Okay, so
anyway, that's just,
Tawny, and while Tawny's speaking, if you want to pull up your document that is the main document, because I'm just going to be asking page numbers of the 112 pages. So Tawny, what did you had something on?
I was just going to say, we were
housing.
talking about the rent price, and I just think that the rent price needs to be looked at in terms of the quality that you're getting for it, because just some of these people are living in terrible conditions. Therefore, the rent, even though it's cheaper, is still too much. Just clarifying.
No, because I was looking at how did we compare to others, and we were,
You might get the same feedback somewhere else, too.
Yeah, I guess I was just clarifying
Yeah.
on what Ann said, not on what
Yeah.
the mayor said, but on Ann said.
the one thing also with the housing piece is we had individuals that said, we need more short-term rentals, we need more RV spaces, we need more, but it was all anecdotal. There wasn't anything that said, this is how many short-term rentals, this is how many RV parks, this is how many apartments we have, how many hotels and lodging we have, and this is how many we need. There's no metric that actually looks at that metric of what do we need on an average, and then what do we need during the busiest times of the year. And I've actually asked for, to get these metrics, because until we have that metric, we can't say whether or not we have enough short-term rentals, because as we went through this goal-setting process, I had individuals that said, we need more short-term rentals, and I had individuals that said, my short-term rental, the people that are renting is down 25%, we don't need more short-term rentals. So the operators were saying we don't need more because their business was actually, so, and I'm like, okay, we need,
that would be more of an analysis that we'd have to do.
We need data-driven
Right.
metrics in order to
Yes.
accurately look at it.
Right.
Which thing are you having us pull up right now? Sorry.
So this is,
There's no page
Yeah.
numbers on here.
This is the community goals
I see.
comments. And so so the.
Email I sent you. It's
Here,
not currently
I'll,
not currently on Diligent. That is the file that didn't make it there.
I can,
So, because what I want to do is, I'm just going to work through and, okay, page 1, is there anything you would like to, and this is there anything that we need to include that was not included?
Tony, I just sent it to you on Ring Central.
I'll email it to you right now, Nathan. Did you cover everything?
Oh, actually, it's mayor's, it's in mayor, it stacks the emails, so.
Do you know what date you sent that to them?
Like Monday-ish,
Yeah, it was
because
Monday right after you mentioned the flood and how.
I was talking about flood things and
March
tired and-
16th, and it's the 4.5 meg attachment. I
It's, yeah,
think.
4.595.
I can display them on the sheet up here if you
I
want.
can also put them up here if we
Could
want.
you-
I've got it already set up.
Okay, yeah, if we can do that.
Thank you,
So
Brian.
you can either look up or you can follow along. Because I don't want a community member to say, well, you just looked at the compiling from staff, but that we actually looked at these.
Megan's seen them many times.
It was
Oh, I have seen
On
them so
Monday.
many times,
it's
y'all.
Sean Wells, it goes city. Sorry.
Okay.
It's this one,
Did you find it,
Council
Tony?
Street, March 21st. Yeah, that was.
Okay.
Also, they're on the website now under council goal setting, and if you go in there, there's a drop down. I just haven't put the full link there yet.
So anything from this, and really, can you display the whole page?
Yes.
Wait, are we going page by page?
It's-
All
it-
but 12?
Yes. Yes.
Page for page.
So anything from page 1 that we have not already talked about or addressed? Yes or no?
No.
Okay. Anything from page 2? And if there's something that, we need to go back to, anything from page 2?
No.
Are we really going on page by page?
Yes.
Page 3, I want to be able to say that we went through. Any-
But, I mean, okay.
This,
I mean, I read this.
It-
We were supposed to read this beforehand.
anything,
When
Any-
you could think about it instead of just, yep.
yeah, anything from page, because there may be some things that jump out now that we've gone through. Anything from page 4?
No.
Okay. Anything from 5? I do think on 5 that more frequent updates related to the truck bypass, and that's something that kind of ties into what we've already talked about.
Yeah, and we've got that feedback
Yeah.
about more feedback and different ways to get feedback.
That's under
A bunch of
Teresa
things.
Allen's.
Yes,
Thank you.
Teresa, yeah. Number 6,
That's Carl's AAA to get us out of the ditch. Right? That's what he told us during the open house.
I think there was only 3 A's. He added a rebrand. He added the Lentil Festival.
that's not an A, though.
I know, that's no A.
Also rebrand lentil.
Okay. Anything from 7? Okay, anything from 8? What about 9?
I mean, want to just touch on one thing. I do like
Yeah.
the idea of the Pledge of Allegiance aspect of it. I know like various clubs and stuff, they might start with that and at a federal level as well for various things. So I don't know. kind of stood out to me. I kind of liked.
He
So.
came and talked at,
Yeah.
did another pitch.
Yeah, he talked to us too. He also mentioned like leading in prayer. I don't know other people's thoughts on that, but
So I'm hearing
I
a
do like
couple
it.
saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah.
And I know when we've had this discussion before, and we had some council members that were adamantly against it, so that's the reason why
I mean,
it doesn't
I'm
happen.
either way, but
So-
I definitely, unfortunately, I don't think prayer is appropriate
I-
in this space.
It definitely, both of those things work against our overall goal of trying to figure out how to make,
Inclusivity, welcoming, and so on and so forth.
yeah,
It is
and
not-
also the length of city council meetings already. We heard you and we added 2 more things.
I'd be remiss not to mention it at least, but
Well,
We don't have to decide today.
for sure.
goodness.
In fact, we
Okay.
can't
On
decide
to number
today.
10.
Oops, well, I'll fix
Number 11.
Okay, where is this? 1 second.
Yeah, You're
We're in the right
I'm
spot,
on-
11.
Yep.
Okay, the resilience can, I don't know how we do this, but improve readiness and maintain public confidence during stressful events. This kind of goes into what I've talked about before, mindfulness. Well, okay, that sounds all hokey, but essentially being able to, and of the council being able to remain calm during very stressful events. We've had this happen many times. And some of us, I'm in that boat, to get reactionary. I don't know how we can include something like that. Maybe it's training. I know you and I have talked about this before.
Okay, we'll add that one in.
Like that.
Anything for number 12? Anything from 13?
I love the call out for how do we get, I mean, this is my, whatever, almost 30 years of SEL coming through, but the idea of us just having a culture of becoming the experts ourselves and not being dependent on consultants, I 100% love that approach. I didn't write this, just to be clear, but I 100% love it. I thought it was weird when I started at SEL, but I'm a massive
I don't-
proponent.
With the amount of departments, it's difficult for, that's why we rely on the experts in different areas.
What?
I want to rely on Megan to tell us about parks, not whoever she hires to come and tell us that we don't have rectangles.
Okay, so we'll
have
look at,
good
we'll look
people.
at that one a
We
little
have
bit
good
more.
people, but they don't have expertise.
Number 14.
I think we should flag this one. College Hill Association has submitted this year after year after year. So there is some frustration, I think, on their part that this has made its way into.
So these 3. Okay. 15. And 15, 16, and 17 are all background to those 3. So I don't think we need to cover more on that. 18.
Shout out to Carla.
Okay.
Are we going to be going over mission, vision, and motto?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'd already, remember I brought that up
Yep.
and asked, did you want to go over?
Yep.
And I think you,
We're probably not going to, or we're going to just go late, right? Because we still have 100 pages to review.
no, not today.
Okay.
That's tonight.
Yeah. 19. We are recording. 20. 21. And this is 22 and 23 is also included on this, as is 24 and 25. Anything from those? On to 26. They're related to that central website. That's something that is being worked on already. Then that's more of the chamber function. Number 27.
Hold on, I'm all the way down at 31.
28. 29.
All kind of related, right?
Yeah.
Public
I
comment
see a
emails
theme.
were-
There was they came in themes, so that did happen.
Megan, they're listed here in the order that we received them.
They are listed here, yes, by the grouping of where we received them from, whether it was public comment emails or at the open house or via the form, and then in the order to the best that we could that we received them with dates and times when they were
With the dates and
applicable.
times.
Yeah, a lot of these right now are
Yeah.
around making sure that
Yeah.
it's easy to visit, and we definitely talked about that a lot.
So we're out of the goal settings, we're into the public comment. Number 30. '31. 32. 33. And then 33 continues into 34 and 35 and 36. So any of those. Then on to 37. I think this did speak about the library and how that space is viewed within the community. And I think that's important for us to be aware of.
And that got called out in the staff goals too,
Yeah,
right?
and how people, how different groups appreciate that. 38. And then 38 continues into 39. Anything in 40? '41.
One thing to note on this page in this next section, some of the public comment emails and some of the online forums had additional attachments or links to things that were also related to this process. So in here, you'll see a link, in some cases, like this one at the bottom of the page, the comment attached to a Facebook link, and I went and pulled that Facebook post and pulled it into this. And I also have a screenshot of the original Facebook post if anybody ever wants to go and look at that.
So,
Tried to
So-
get as much encompassing as we could.
yes. So.
Great job.
So if we start with that 41, that continues through 44, and then there's this, from the same person, it continues again through 47. Anything related to those? '48,
The free dog park.
Okay.
So,
No, that's why we work our way through these. Anything for 49?
Yes, I have a question about 49.
I'm sorry, Tony?
I have a question about 49.
Yes.
What is it that a city does specifically to attract chain businesses? I don't understand what falls inside the city purview versus private business purview. How would a city do that? I'm just curious about the piece there. They want us to go and get these chain businesses to come here?
Oh,
How does a city do that? Do we just put out like a billboard that says?
and that's the thing, is it's a private business that chooses to come here. There can be some recruitment where we go out and show them how great a place it is to live here. Other communities actually have money that they can incentivize. We legally can't incentivize because of the state constitution.
So we could put together a group to be like, we would like a Nike store here,
And we've gone out and done that, just like, and it's no different than this next week, the airport has a team, I'm not on it, that is actually meeting with airlines in order to work to get an airline to going east rather than only going west. So we will periodically, we'll actually, whether it's with developers to build homes, so, any home development, it's going to take a recruitment to bring a developer in here to build those homes.
why they should be recruiting everything.
So, yeah.
well, I know Glenn, just real quick, I know Glenn would go to those
Las
events.
Vegas.
The Las Vegas.
Yeah, and the challenge also is that those chains have data professionals that look at how many people do you have in your area, how many come through, how many shop at this, that,
We
the
don't
other.
stop. We have to just keep looking.
No, I know, what I'm saying is some of those
Yeah.
ones that people talk about to bring here, they've looked and they said you don't have the amount of people that we look for our brand
Yeah.
in here.
Moscow has the same number of people.
Well,
and they have a
but
different
it's,
way.
it's
Like,
the,
we just
bu-
need to-
it's the business climate between the difference between the two communities.
Yeah.
We will have,
Because Applebee's was going to come here, but
Yeah.
the Washington rules and regulations are too restrictive. and
we'll,
so they-
we'll have some more discussion on that Tuesday at study session.
Yeah,
We've got an
yeah, there's
economic
more,
development.
there's more on, because, and
We've got to push through.
I'll bite too. 49?
I have one on 49. Looking at ways to inform or lobby the legislature to help businesses. I think maybe some, like a goal here, forming some sort of committee or commission to be kind of constant, like lobbying the legislature as like a border town, I think is sort of the underlying subtext there. I think it'd be really good.
And
so
that's
that-
part of, and that's that strategic invest, I got to think, how did we have that worded before? No, not the tourism, it was influence. That's that influence piece is part of that
Yep.
too. Good, okay, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, and if you catch something or just call up on me, 57, 58, 59,
I want a gondola.
you want that gondola?
I do.
You want that gondola?
It's not the first time we've heard about it.
Yeah, we've had people that propose bridges from Sunnyside Hill to Pioneer Hill. Yeah.
Let's make sure that one, never mind.
It-
Too soon.
I want a water slide, I ain't getting one.
50, I'm sorry, 60, 61, 62, 63. This is really just an opportunity if haven't already touched on it, to touch it up. 64. 65. 66. 67.
I think the comments about Gladish, I mean, we would just be so sad if we lose Gladish as a community place or third space, and I don't, there's no elegant solution to it, but.
Eric, can I have you turn your mic on?
Oh, sorry. Talking about Gladish and how it was such a great third space for the community, and there's no elegant solution to bringing it back, but maybe working with community groups or something to keep it turning into something other than apartments. Maybe apartments would be good, but just something.
The Gladish Board is actively working on this.
How are they still functional without a building?
We have to be, we're in charge of the building.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're working on it.
And related to that, I think it'd be valuable, we have a rec center, and should that rec center actually become a community center? So I think, and that was one of the goals that was actually submitted is, when we're thinking about building B, should it, rather than being a rec center, should it actually be relabeled as a community center? Because it's a senior center, I mean, if you start thinking of all that's housed in there, it really is more a community center than, I mean, the rec center is the primary. 66,
I think we're at 68.
68, 67, 68. I couldn't remember what number I was on, so I made sure I went back and at least.
Next time, we really got to make sure that, like, over-communicate. We all read this.
Yeah. Well, but
For them.
I still, 69. 70.
Bingo.
71. Oh, yeah. 72. I did like on 72 that the naming, so do you name pickleball courts? I think it'd also be good for us to name, and not that it needs to be in a goal, but our parking lots downtown, it'd be nice to name them so that, so when we're trying to describe something, so we have, naming.
Other than the spot shop?
Other than the spot shop, Paradise, I
Everybody
mean,
knows where that is.
Right?
yeah, but.
I didn't when I came here.
Yeah, 70, yeah, so, but to think about those opportunities there, 73? Yeah, the joke in DC was, in order to get the last $1 million in funding for the freight bypass, do we rename it? And offer to a trucking company if they wanted to have their name on it,
Sponsor truck bypass.
Turn
it into Idiocracy.
it was 74.
Main
I
Street,
do like
sponsored by
on the
Giza.
last one on 74, like I'm not sure Amtrak's coming back, and I've heard rumors about the the buses that come and go, but the same day, I almost wonder if there's some ways to encourage people to come but actually stay, whether it's with a train or an airplane or a bus or a monorail or like teleportation. I mean, that would be fine too.
So part of the game day experience?
Yeah, like
Okay.
making it a game weekend experience.
Game
Gondola
weekend.
from Spokane.
Big game weekend. Okay, 75. 76.
My personal favorite, budgeting bypass. Made it really easy to put them on
Yeah.
the chart.
Anonymously.
77. 78. 79. 80, and 80 continues through through 90.
91.
92, and which is 92, 93, 4, 5, 6, and then again from 97 to the end.
And I do have the original form of all of these attachments available if anybody wants to see them. One thing I did do was take out a table of contents that was embedded in one of these because it didn't work in the larger context here. So if you'd like to see them, I did put some editor notes on the very last page too, so you have an idea of why things
Yeah.
are the way that they are in this document.
I would,
There was a lot of work put in.
So I,
for the record, I would just like to say, since this is going to be broadcast, for the record, just since
Yeah.
this is going to be broadcast, I saw your comment, Mom. Thank you.
Shout out to your mom.
Yeah, I think it's actually, I think it's really cool the amount of comments that we got, both from
Yeah.
people in town and people who want to come to Pullman. Like whether it's at the open house, whether it's the stuff people submitted online, I mean, really great feedback from the community and
This
beyond.
is the most that we've seen.
I was just going to ask that from your longer tenured council
At
members.
least in my memory.
We went by hers really quick,
Yeah.
actually. Don't we have a water plan for the summer, like to keep down watering from yards and that?
Landscape irrigation plan, yes.
Okay.
There's landscape irrigation restrictions that go into effect June or July? I think it's June. I should know as the former director. And
We've
that goes,
changed it a couple of years and done it early and
yeah,
stuff
and then
too.
that goes through
And then
September.
on the Chipman,
May 15th, sometimes June 1st.
on the Chipman Trail, as far as getting in shade, is that the city or is that the county? How much of that is in city property?
The Chipman Trail is a multi-jurisdictional conglomerate of groups that fund that whole trail. It's the city, WSU, U of I, Lake County,
Whitman
Whitman
County.
County, and then Whitman County manages the whole thing.
So if the dog walkers wanted shade on that for their poor little doggos' feet, that would be a bigger project.
Bigger project that we would engage with that particular committee.
Okay, good to know.
yeah. There was one that I liked in there was where they talk about develop a call reduction plan, not just improve efficiencies as related to emergency services. So not just how do we do a better efficiency with the services, but is there a call reduction? Can we identify there's certain types of calls that we could work to emphasize in order to do a reduction? Kind of similar to where fire identified, here are where a lot of our fires happen, and so let's do an education program around that type of, so I wonder if there's, so I like that community comment around that. And Sean, not to call you out, one of them was on Center Street, so coming down Center Street to Grand, and is where someone suggested, right now, a lot of people, when they come down, they stack side by side and do a right turn and a left turn. Is that something that is wide enough to actually be?
I don't think it's wide enough to make it legal.
To make it legal?
I think people are illegally passing on the right.
Illegal, okay. So if we get those community comments of, that's helpful just to know that traffic warrants don't allow for that to be actually
But it might
dotted
be-
that way.
I know with the signal plan that's in our CIP, that might be looked at as a part of that widening.
Can we
had to go and
widen
get
it in
some
order so
additional
that
property
you
for the
can
signal.
actually stripe it that way? Okay, and is there anything that we have missed that was on your mind that you would like to see included in? Tawny? Oh, okay. Okay, because then I'll work with staff. We will bring this together in order to bring back you a draft that we can start the conversations, the continued conversations around this, especially around how do you want to handle which ones are, become committees versus, at least for those long-term planning areas, which ones we set up committees versus other. We're going to work to, how do we'll take all this and we'll also look at, is this a realistic plan for 2 years? Or is this too much work? If so, we'll come back with that communication also. And then you can help guide the process to narrow that process down. Sean, any?
Just two last things. I've been engaging with some of the department heads as we are going. They didn't know I was going to do that, so thankfully RJ was paying attention during the track meet he's visiting. So things that came up today was regarding RV usage on commercial properties. Currently, it's not allowed based on the zoning code unless it is permitted as an RV park. And that's why we don't see those RVs parked on commercial properties like Walmart and such.
So we could ask for them to relook at.
That would be a zoning code change that the council would have to entertain moving that forward. Secondly was the comments about rent control and House Bill 1217 that was enacted in May of 2025. That was a statewide thing, but RCW 3521-830 prohibits cities from enforcing their own rent control. So, thank you all.
Okay, anything?
Thank you, guys.
Trevor, did you?
Compilation.
I just really,
I think Trevor
really
had something, yes.
super quick, in regard to like private property or sort of commercial property, allowing RVs, could they apply for a variance?
I would have to investigate that. I don't believe so, but I would have to
Okay.
dive into staff to answer that question.
Gotcha. All right, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. We got through this in 4 hours. And I know you thought I was crazy when I said, let's go through all 112, but even in going through, there were a couple things that we realized, no, we hadn't touched on that was important to reference, so. There, we have, some people like to write more than
It's
others.
important. She did a lot of research into it.
Yeah.
And wrote us a lot. It's good.
So with,
Well, and the thing that we have to be careful of, because we used to have a person that came all the time to all our meetings, and we'd get emails after
Janice.
emails after
Yeah,
emails.
I miss Janice.
And it was like, every now and then, you know, there's a nugget in there that it's like, oh, whoa, you have to, you know, you have to read it to get that nugget. So
yeah.
every now and then, that does happen.
Yeah, and that was when we had paper copies. I literally, each meeting, there was
Oh,
about
my
50
Godfrey,
emails.
yeah.
Okay.
But yeah.
I know people have other things to do. Thank you very much. I think there
Take-
is still some food in there.
Take cake,
Please take.
I mean, take coffee cake, take candy.
And I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned. It's 2:08.